Right, good evening everyone and welcome to tonight's council meeting. First of all, council would like to acknowledge the Wadawurrung people as the traditional owners of this lands, waterways, under the incredible skies we meet on today. We pay respects to elders past and present, acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of the greater Geelong community today for we are one community. This meeting is being broadcast on the internet and a recording of the meeting will be published on Council's website. Good evening everyone, my name is Trent Sullivan and as the Mayor of the City of Greater Geelong Council I will be chairing the Council meeting tonight. Thank you to everybody who has joined us here in City Hall and to those who are coming in via the live stream. It's fantastic to be joined by many residents and we certainly look forward to our time during Q&A. As many of you will know, we've been celebrating some fantastic days since our last council meeting. As many of you will know, this here Greater Geelong is now led by our wonderful Chief Executive, Ali Wasty, who surpassed her 6 months quite recently. Since joining the city last year, Ali has certainly had a mark felt in the community and we're certainly benefiting from her appointment. But Ali is just one of the hundreds of amazing women within our organisation. The City of Greater Geelong has seen a significant rise in the percentage of women occupying management or senior management positions, which has positively influenced the overall gender balance throughout the entire workforce. In fact, women occupy 65% of management or senior management positions in 2023, which is up from 52% in 2021. Across Greater Geelong, there are thousands of women in our community who are doing incredible work. That is why it was such an honour to attend the Women in Community Life Awards earlier this month, which was attended by many of my fellow councillors. These awards offer deserved acknowledgement to numerous women in Greater Geelong who have devoted themselves to enhancing our community. We've been inspired by the stories of all of the nominees and the winners. These are women who have demonstrated exceptional commitment in their professional and volunteer endeavours, enriching Geelong and improving the life of its residents. We know the importance of women and girls having equal access to opportunities across all sectors, whether it's in education, business, society or civic life. Our Women in Community Life Awards are one of the ways we seek to achieve these aims. And I want to take the opportunity once again to publicly congratulate all winners and to our Women in Community Life Advisory Committee for the work that they do. Now we have a number of questions from the community tonight, so we'll get through the procedures and we'll get kick-started in there. Councillors will be asking for a strict adherence to speaking time limits this evening. Councillors, are there any apologies or leaves of absence to be noted? As for declarations of conflict of interest, Councillor Contell, you have previously identified a conflict of interest in item 2.8.
That's correct. I've written to you and the CEO. I have a conflict with 2.8. The successful tenderer is a customer of the business of which I'm a director of.
Thank you, Councillor Contell. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Item 5.2.
Any other conflicts? Thank you. Can I have confirmation of the minutes, a mover and a seconder for the minutes of the council meeting held on the 27th of February 2024? Councillor Hathaway, seconded Councillor Cadwell. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Carried. Right, the next agenda item is public question and submission time. This is the time that is specifically available for questions and submissions rather than as a forum for discussion. In accordance with our policy, we set aside 45 minutes for question time, providing for each person to address the council for 3 minutes per question or submission, with no more than 2 questions asked or submissions made per person. Questions and submissions provided in writing prior to the meeting will be considered first. I'm now going to read out all the names of the submitters who have pre-submitted questions and the subjects they've written on. I'm just going to go through it in total, just so it's on the public record, and then I'll be inviting people up to make their submissions or questions. So from today we have submissions from Christopher Bates, Busking Permits, Barry White, Serendip Sanctuary, Angela Carr, City of Greater Geelong Social Housing Plan, Vicky Perrott, Prospect Hill Waste Incinerator and Green Spine, Jenny Knox, St Leonards, James Taylor, road sealing Park Street, Port Arlington. Gary Onyek, Jong Homelessness. Dante Di Tondo, road sealing Park Street, Port Arlington. Jean Nell, trees on private land. Louis DeCoca, governance. Madeline McLaren, North Ballerine Aquatic Centre. Louise Skeen, North Ballerine Aquatic Centre. Chris Skeen, North Ballerine Aquatic Centre. Monique McLeod, North Ballerine Aquatic Centre. Geraldine Harrington, North Ballerine Aquatic Centre. Nicole Hopkins, State Government Grant Opportunities. Jeff Jarvis, State Government Grant Opportunities. Neil Sandruth, State Government Grant Opportunities. Luke Keane, State Government Grant Opportunities. Kathleen Ritchies, International Conflict. Noor Al, International Conflict. Maureen Ritchies, International Conflict. May I please have a show of hands in the gallery whose names I've just read out loud? Excellent. Anybody whose name I've read out who is not here will be receiving the answers to the questions or submissions online, and they'll be published there as well. So now I will go through the list again, and in that same order invite people to come down to speak in front of the council. Is Christopher Bates here this evening? There you are. Excellent. We'll just actually, if you maybe move the microphone ahead in front of you and just keep it nice and close just so we can pick up on you. That's when you wish, sir.
Is this fine?
Perfect.
Thank you for supporting Music in Geelong with the instruments installed at the back of Market Square, the regular performances in the mall, and the criteria for suitable busking on the council website, recognising it as a valid activity, one I've seen people enjoy here. Since many social activities stopped during the pandemic, and while some have resumed, some have never become what they were before or what they could be, my question here aims to restore and/or increase opportunities in Geelong for busking as part of our clever and creative city. Here's one option. I quote the busking team at City of Melbourne. At its meeting on Tuesday, 29 March 2022, Council unanimously voted to waive busking permit fees until 31st October 2022. Other requirements remained in place for safety and to be considerate of other residents and businesses. City of Melbourne now charges $30.60 per year for a general area busking permit. The City of Greater Geelong website currently says busking permits cost $20 per month in Geelong. This adds up to $240 per year, an amount that could fund many trips to Melbourne. To make it easier for Geelong talent to perform down here and bring fun and creativity to local residents, can our council please vote on the motion that we waive busking permit fees within the City of Greater Geelong for 1 year beginning 20 April 2024. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing what you decide.
Thank you for your question, Christopher, and for bringing this on to our attention there. We definitely don't want to be out of lockstep with our colleagues at other councils across the state, and it is interesting that the City of Melbourne is currently reviewing the pricing of their busking permits, as I believe the original reduction was a COVID support package, and then that's fantastic. What I can promise is that the City recognises that busking is a vital part of the Geelong community, and definitely a way we can display being clever and creative. I can tell you though, it has been agreed that we are reviewing the busking permit process in the first half of the next financial year. So come July, a review will be taking place of the structure and the pricing associated with that. So the work's scheduled to be done, and it'll be kicking off very shortly. Thank you, Christopher. Barry White here this evening. Yeah. Hi, Barry.
Very well, thanks Mr Mayor and councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again. This follows on a question that I raised at the last council meeting on February 27th, and it was really concerning two issues to do with Serendip Sanctuary in particular. I asked at that meeting, for the first part of the question, I asked at the meeting if you and council would request a meeting with the Minister Steve Dimopoulos as Minister for Tourism and the Environment for a meeting with his staff, he and his staff, and council and also the community to discuss those developments and what has actually been happening at Serendip Sanctuary. You mentioned that you're going to meet with him the following week after that meeting, and I just wondered whether that was done, and if so, what was the outcome? If it wasn't, will it take place?
Yeah, thank you, Barry. Apologies, I don't recall saying I was going to meet with him next week, but we are constantly chasing him down. I have further reached out to the Minister and requested a meeting to discuss Serendip Sanctuary. We're still awaiting a response.
Or waiting for a response?
Indeed.
The second part of that particular issue was a request for support from council to approach the Executive Director of Tourism Greater Geelong to play a more proactive role in the You Yangs Precinct Master Plan. I did receive a response. I must say that that didn't reflect an accurate position at all, of the position that the Executive Director has taken on the Stakeholder Reference Group. I'm on that Stakeholder Reference Group. I know what was minuted and what was said, and what is in the response isn't a reflection, an accurate reflection of that. So I ask again if Council would approach the Executive Director and again present the requirements, I think, as far as we're concerned, of the growth in tourism and for a greater role by Tourism Greater Geelong in that particular activity.
I think I'll take that request on board there, Barry, and have further conversations with CEO and directors, and hopefully we can come to a satisfying conclusion on that one.
If you would, it would be appreciated. My second question is in some ways related to the first. Yep.
So, Deputy Mayor, can you use your microphone?
Before we go on to the second question, Barry did ask at the last meeting who was representing council as well too then, and was under the belief it was the Executive Director of Geelong Balloon Tourism. The advice is that it's not that person. So who is actually representing the city on that stakeholder group when Jonathan Daly, who was an employee of the City of Greater Geelong, was actually representing the organisation? So who is now that representative? That was the question that Barry actually asked at the last meeting as well too, that still hasn't been answered. Yeah.
I'm happy to direct to the CEO, Ali Wasty.
And I'll direct over placemaking.
Thank you, Councillor Aiken. The Executive Director Tourism is a member of the Stakeholder Forum for the You Yangs Precinct Master Plan and is a representative of Tourism Greater Geelong and the Bellarine Inc. So it is the Executive Director that sits on that Stakeholder Forum.
My question tonight relates to that position. I mean, if she is representing Tourism Greater Geelong, we're talking about tourism, and we'd like to see a more proactive position taken by the Director. I mean, as I said, I've been on the Stakeholder Reference Group for the last 3 meetings, and to the best of my knowledge, there's nothing minuted in terms of representing Tourism Greater Geelong's view. It would be helpful to have that.
I'll follow that up. Thanks, Barry.
Through the chair again, so who is representing the city then? It's fine with saying that Tracy Carter is not representing the city, so who is actually representing the city? Because Jonathan Daly was an employee of the City of Greater Geelong who was on that particular committee, and an important committee because, yeah.
Yep. Let's not put out names of officers down to sue, especially ones who aren't with us anymore, but we'll confine the information to that and hopefully have that conferred by the next council meeting.
Be helpful. Thanks for that. Second question in some ways relates to the first, but this is to do with an aspect of the You Yangs Precinct Master Plan. One thing the Master Plan doesn't really focus on is the development of tourism and actions that could be taken to support that. We've now been briefed on a multi-million-dollar proposal for a major caravan park and short-term tourist accommodation in Forest Road, Lara. This is ideally situated between the two major sites, You Yangs and Serendip Sanctuary. Importantly, it will complement the You Yangs Precinct Master Plan, but it also will form to attract tourists from the Spirit of Tasmania. since that ferry service has been introduced. We've been told that many recreational vehicle and caravan tourists coming from the ferry have no overnight or short stay camping options locally available, with many using paddocks around the district, including at Inverleigh. That's before they leave the region. So we get no benefit at all from those short stay visitors. This undermines the opportunities for increased visitor time in our northern region and will defeat a key objective of the master plan to bring more tourists to visit these attractions and other features such as the regional wineries, the Ramsar areas, the Avalon Air Show, and support for regional businesses, which is important for economic development. This opportunity has been a long time coming, I have to say, and we should do everything necessary to facilitate its establishment. And I refer councillors to a notice of motion that was passed in 2021, which actually supported a review and an activity to attract short stay accommodation to the region. Now that was carried unanimously. To date, nothing has happened. Now we have an opportunity. We don't want to lose it. So my question specifically is, will Council and the Planning Department play a constructive role in supporting this much needed development before the investors seek options elsewhere?
Yeah, thank you for the question there, Barry. We always have a goal and an aim to be constructive in the role in supporting much-needed development across our region. However, though, in the current proposal you're mentioning right now, Council has not received an official application for this development, and as such we do not have an official formed view on it by officers or council laws, but officers are always open to discussion.
Could I say I believe an application was received today by Council? So
well, it was received today, then we won't have been able to form it yet, but
sure.
I appreciate the update.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You, Mr. White. Angela Carr. Hi, Angela.
Oh, thanks. Good to see everyone again. So, my name's Angela Carr. I'm a local social worker, and I was the co-convener of Geelong Housing Action Group from 2021 until last year. So GHAG were an activist group made up of people experiencing homelessness, housing insecurity, lived experience of homelessness and concerned community members. Through my work with GHAG, we met with Council on 2 occasions in 2021 and 2022 to discuss movement on the Social Housing Action Plan. And at that time, it was actually suggested to us that there wasn't a great deal of support from Council to implement the plan. 3 years later, that seems pretty clear that this Council actually has a plan. I mean, this plan far exceeds the plans of other councils around the work regarding homelessness in their communities. But plans on paper don't really mean anything unless there's a real commitment to implement the actions for positive change. Council executives, officers, councillors and everyone here tonight would be walking around blind if they couldn't see the growing crisis in our community. At the time of the plan's development, there were 4,000 people on the housing waiting list in Geelong. A few years later, that's over 7,000 people. So given the escalation of the crisis, this plan really is a bare minimum that Council should be doing for the people in our community. I attended the recent Real Deal Forum where local member for Geelong, Christine Cousins, stated that the state put $300,000 towards this plan, and I'm aware that Council spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to create this plan. There was a lot of praise at the forum for the plan, but there seems to be little implementation due to Council resourcing. I heard you say in the last meeting, Mayor Sullivan, that the plan is ambitious. However, without ambition, nothing changes, and the people in this town are increasingly growing desperate. As you alluded to, Mayor Sullivan, negotiating with developers is pointless, and it's true the state does need to legislate mandatory inclusion zoning, but the council needs to be actively advocating for these changes alongside with the other actions in the plan. At the February Council meeting, questions were asked by Real Deal representatives about Council's current status in regard to actioning the social housing plan. Mayor Sullivan, in your response you stated there were 2 officers dedicated to this issue, and Deputy Mayor Aiken then asked for those officers to be named, as councillors have been unable to identify who they are. Now, what I just read out formed part of a question that city officers have censored me from asking. So I was called today and told I wasn't able to ask for the names of the officers working on the social housing plan. But as a ratepayer, I would like to know where my money goes and if promised projects are being resourced as they said they're being resourced. And the reality is a suspicious person might conclude perhaps no one is currently working on actions in the plan. I do understand staff's privacy, but why not confirm with the community that there are in fact staff working on the plan? Last year I was involved in a council cuts campaign where we saw jobs scrapped from the community life portfolio, and I would like to know if these jobs are part of that. So I will get to the question that has been allowed. So my question is, in line with council's existing social housing plan, what concrete steps are being taken to progress the plan now that the 3 sites have been identified by council and community feedback has been received in response to social housing being proposed for those locations?
Angela, can I just clarify that you submitted 2 questions today, and in the time that was allotted you to speak your approved pre-submitted question, you used it to instead talk about another question that officers had said that was inappropriate for the council meeting.
I have 3 minutes to speak and I haven't used 3 minutes.
You have used over 3 minutes. The alarm went off. I apologise if you did not hear it. But you had a pre-submitted question in the statement, and you instead went off script and went far beyond that. Now, I'm all for having people who wish to submit the questions, and if it's in the open time when we have time at the end, you can come up and I ask people to approach and ask questions off the floor. However, if a question is pre-submitted, accepted, I can answer it. It makes it much more difficult if people go off script, and it's actually quite, I believe, frankly, rude to people who have pre-submitted the questions and stick to the ones that have been submitted and approved. So I can answer your question that in line with council's existing social housing plan, what concrete steps have been taken to progress the plan, but please, for everybody, so we can hear the time limits and everybody can be heard. If you have a pre-submitted question, it's only right that we all have the chance to ask our pre-submitted questions. The City's Social Housing Plan, Angela, outlines recommended strategies in leadership, planning, investment and partnerships, as I'm sure you very well know. The City has made progress in all these key strategy areas, and Council has endorsed the establishment of the Affordable Housing Trust. We are also currently considering feedback and challenges, and alternately a different delivery mode perhaps, to fast-track the potential use of 3 council-owned sites for social housing. Again, I'm sure you're familiar. The City is following the development of the National Housing and Homelessness Plan and provided a comprehensive submission to the National Housing and Homeless Plan consultation. Our submission has outlined the overall housing affordability issues with a regional focus specifically to Geelong, including the lack of social and affordable housing. And the City has made recommendations for integration of planning and housing outcomes in the NHHP with a national urban policy agenda and funding or investment infrastructure in the region to support urban developments that enable the delivery of more social and affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you for your response, but just to be fair, I would like to respond to what you said.
This isn't a forum for debate, as I said at the start.
I know that, but people come along with their preamble.
You came along with a submitted question, which was approved.
Which I asked my question.
At the end of a long, unapproved intro that actually exceeded the time frame allotted of 3 minutes. Thank you for your time, Angela.
The council is censoring people in this community's right to speak.
Enjoy your night.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, could I comment?
Councillor Hathaway.
Yep. Thank you. Well, I just wanted to echo some of the comments that Ange made. Myself, Councillor Aiken and Councillor Maloney and Councillor Wilkinson all attended the Real Deal Forum the other week, as well as city officers. And what we heard from that platform was repeated praise for the social housing plan. Of course, strategic plans can always be better, but I think what we have is a pretty great plan. So all I can do at this moment is just to acknowledge that councillors and council officers are currently going through budget discussions for the next year. and just encourage fellow councillors to keep this in mind as we go forward and discuss operational budget to make sure we resource the good plans that we have.
Southway. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
And I don't, I think it is appropriate, the Mayor actually has endorsed that we will actually undertake a workshop of councillors and officers involved in the project to actually identify opportunities to re-engage and prioritise the housing strategy. So the Mayor's actually personally intervened to assist that, and that has been requested by Councillor Maloney, Councillor Aiken, Councillor Hathaway and Councillor Wilkinson. We have said we would like to open it up to all councillors because we do believe the housing crisis is actually the biggest social issue that we're confronting in Geelong. Yeah.
Agreed. Vicky Perrott. Hi, Vicky.
I'm good, thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you for having me here this evening. And my first question relates to the Prospect Hill Waste Incinerator in Lara, the 400,000 tonnes per annum plant that is proposed and has EPA approval. Last month, the Committee for Geelong had held a member forum and they examined both sides of this planned incinerator. Subsequently, they have published a statement confirming that, in their opinion, this project does not align to our vision and aspirations for our city. And their particular concerns related to Geelong becoming a destination for waste across Victoria and maybe beyond, the site's proximity to residential housing and its negative impact on both established and growth suburbs at a time when there are pressures on housing supply, as we have just been discussing. The facility's size and location, which will create a dominant, visually disagreeable landmark in contrast to our UNESCO City of Design status. The potential health impacts for the community in terms of air quality and residual particles landing on produce grown in the region, and the overall detriments to the environment. Mr Mayor, we know last September that you wrote to the Planning Minister, Honourable Sonia Kilkenny, passing on the community's concern regarding this big toxic waste incinerator. Tonight we're here to ask you, will you again write to the Minister, this time on behalf of the City, calling for the Victorian Government to not allow this proposal to proceed?
Thank you for your question, Vicky. As you stated, during the formal engagement processes that was opened by the state government, I, on behalf of the council group, came to a consensus that we would write outlining a series of objections that the community had come to us, and that was conveyed and lodged as an objection throughout the process. We do not know if we're going to be formally re-engaged with the process for further consultation. So even as recently as tonight, I've discussed with the council group, and we are definitely open to writing further letter. We will be drafting what we may be sending off and turning around for consensus, and then quite possibly further writing to the Minister and the state government in that direction.
It would be wonderful if we have government, business and community all on the same page in this relation. My second question relates to the wonderful vision for the Green Spine, and it promised a linear park, Botanic Park, with gathering places along Mellop Street from Johnson's Park to Eastern Park. The design, as it was put out in the brochure, had a two-way bike path along the southern side of the street that was physically separated from cars. I actually rode with the Friday Night by Bike group along the new stage 3 of Mellop Street a couple of weeks ago, and I was really disappointed that it really is no better than stage 2. All we have are painted lanes, and cars can cross, certainly on the north side, cars can cross the bike lane to park against the curb. I understand a local resident, Ashley Goldstraw, has emailed all councillors a short 2-minute video that provides a cyclist's perspective of this newest stage. I'm also aware that the G21 Integrated Transport Study predicts that business as usual will increase travel time fourfold by 2041. I think we're already seeing the massive increase in congestion at peak hour around the city. Reducing car dependence, improving public transport and providing safe routes for cyclists are vital components of a livable, vibrant, modern city. And we all share an ardent desire to see central Geelong revitalised. So I would like to ask councillors, have you watched Bike Route Buddies' video of stage 3? And has it given you a better understanding about the importance of grade separation between cyclists and drivers?
Thank you for your question, Vicky. Whilst I can't attest to all the councillors and what YouTube videos they do watch, the safety of all road users, including cyclists, pedestrians and drivers, is naturally of the utmost importance to everybody in the community, especially us here at the city. The Green Spine Block 3, as you know, is a revitalising Central Geelong project which is led by the Department of Transport and Planning. The project's design intent is to install bike lane separators along the entire length of both sides of the road. However, due to a staged delivery, the centre median seems to be remaining in place, and interim buffer zones marked with the chevron lines are currently in use. I have information that Revitalising Central Geelong is actively seeking funding to complete the north side of the street, thereby realising the vision of fully separated bike lanes. However, they are, as you know, a separate organisation to ourselves, so I can't answer fully on their behalf. American?
Vicky, thank you for the question, because it's actually appropriate that it's actually 4 years since the state government gazetted to take over Little Malp Street and the Green Spine project. So it actually was the 20th of March 2020 that the state government said that Little Malp Street would actually be a state road again and would no longer be a road of the City of Greater Geelong. And it also said they would be taking over the Green Spine project. I hope all these questions that you've actually asked the City of Greater Geelong, who is not responsible for the road or the Green Spine project, are actually directed towards the state government, because we have been waiting 4 years for the Green Spine to be delivered in Geelong, and unfortunately, as you've pointed out, it seems to have not met the objectives. So I really think you should be channeling your questions towards the responsible authority, which is not the City of Greater Geelong.
Thank you, American. Councillor Maloney?
Thank you for your question, Vicky. I have watched the video, a bit alarming, and I think that there is a lot of work to be done as far as driver education, as well as getting people out and about and creating a culture that really shifts people into looking around. I ride a bike and a motorbike and I drive a car, and I realise that people aren't looking, they're looking on their phones, and it's quite dangerous, and I've had a few near hits recently to make me think about the advocacy we need to make to, as Councillor Aiken has said, other levels of government for funding, for education, for different mechanisms for showing people how to use the roads, because some people frankly just don't seem to have a brain in their head. So I think maybe bollards and other sort of implements that can help to corral people into using the road properly to avoid the kind of incidences that we saw in that video. So I'm going to see what we can do perhaps at the MAV level as well to help with that. Thank you for your question.
Councillor Maloney. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you for the question, Vicky. I too have watched the YouTube video, and I actually think it's much more of a huge cultural shift that needs to change if we want to get to a point of people choosing to actively move around our city safely. We need everybody on board, and that means not putting witches' hats in the middle of a bike lane while work is being undertaken or an event is on. Just that broader look at this as an active pathway. So it's, yeah, there's a lot of work to be done.
Is Jenny Knox here this evening? Hi, Jenny.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing my questions this evening. As many of you will be aware, residents in the St Leonards community are awaiting the closure of Ibbotson Street between Bluff and Maradoc roads, so that the restoration of this important biolink can begin. The internal security fencing that runs along Ibbotson adjacent to stage 2 of the Lifestyle Village expansion between Bluff and Ibbotson Streets, the truck entrance, has been pulled down and removed. This has resulted in damage to the existing verge vegetation and trees that will become part of the future greenway. My question tonight is, can Council explain if permission was granted to the developer Dennis Homes or other commercial business to remove the security fencing and damage vegetation that should be protected.
Jenny, would you like to lead into question 2 as they lead into each other? Maybe it's both the
Yes,
same point.
and my second question is, if permission was not granted, what actions and penalties will council apply to ensure the protection of this important EVC? If permission was granted, why was it granted, and what conditions were applied, if any? And what monitoring will council undertake to ensure either conditions are met or that further damage does not occur?
Thank you for your question there, Jenny, both of them. It is acknowledged that a permit is required for any native vegetation removed in a road reserve, as I'm sure you know. Under the current approved planning permit for the site, which is PPE 1092-2018-A, an endorsed construction environmental management plan provides for the majority of the vegetation along Bluff Road to be retained, with the exception for the removal of trees within the new proposed intersection into the subdivision, which is at the extension to Thornton Avenue. Council's Planning Enforcement Unit will follow up to ensure that the works are in accordance with the permit requirements. If vegetation damage is not in accordance with the permit and has happened, then Council will undertake further enforcement action.
Could I ask that I be kept up to date in the outcome so that I can feed that information back to Swan Bay residents and also Lifestyle Village residents?
Reasonable, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. James Taylor here this evening. Hi, James.
Yeah, good to meet you finally.
Pleasure.
My questions relate to the road ceiling in Park Street, Port Arlington, which is item 2.6 on tonight's agenda. My first question is, how does Council reconcile this proposal to impose a special rate of almost $80,000, which is equivalent to more than 20 years the annual general rate on my home, to fund the ceiling of Park Street, with the general cost of living reduction measures being adopted by governments and councils throughout Australia? And would the implementation of such a special rate demonstrate that Council is out of touch or contemptuous of its constituents?
I would like to ask both questions at once, James, as the response I can give is limited, as it will be debated this evening.
It will be debated this evening.
Yes.
In relation to the second question then, I basically ask how Council can justify imposing a special rate on my property of $80,000, which is a quarter of the total property holder contributions for the scheme, whereas the property on the other side of the road, which enjoys a similar frontage to Park Street as mine, is to be levied with only $12,946.49. The project manager responsible for this claimed that it was in part because the property on the other side of the road had a frontage to Langdon Street. My property also has a frontage to Willis Street and a frontage to Langdon Street, in part. So does Council believe that such a gross inequity in the amounts levied is in the community interest or is fair? Since asking that question, I've had the opportunity to see the agenda for tonight's meeting and to have some idea of how the costs were calculated. In item 4 of the agenda, or in paragraph 4, it clearly states that there are 11 properties affected by this proposed scheme. The final attachment to the agenda item shows how the Council considered the proposed rate and the alternatives that were available to it. Surprisingly, there are only 10 properties in that calculation, and one property has been totally overlooked, and that happens to be one of my properties. So I think that what Council should do is put this item aside for tonight, review the assessment that it's made, because the assessment is fundamentally flawed, and rejig the whole project.
James, appreciate your questions there. So thank you for raising your questions in regarding to the proposed special rates in charge scheme for the ceiling of Park Street, Port Arlington, which, as I said, Council will consider the intent to declare the report later in this meeting. I understand that officers have responded to some of your inquiries in this matter recently, advising that the ceiling of Park Street is being proposed, and at the request of your neighbouring property owners in Park Street. This recent correspondence advised that the contribution of the special rates and charges scheme considered to a number of apportionment methods, including using the boundary length of properties abutting Park Street as well. After consideration for the recommendation, the fairest and most equitable cost appointment that came to was, in this instance, using land value benefiting properties. If councillors do support the intention to declare later tonight, as part of this statutory process, any person required to pay the special charge imposed by the proposed declaration has a right to object and may make a written objection to the city under section 163B of the Act. But as I said this multiple times, this is up for debate this evening, so I do encourage you to hang around and to view that, where councillors will be putting forth their positions and voting on this in the end.
I understand that, sir, and as one of my ward councillors, I'd like you to explain why my property was omitted from the considerations made by council.
I appreciate that, James. You'll hear us speak to it when it comes up in the reports. Thank you.
Pardon?
You'll hear us speak to it when it comes up in the reports.
And answer the question now.
Because it will be debated. Thank you, James. Is Gary Onyuk here? Hi, Gary.
Yeah, good, Trent. How are you?
Well, thank you.
I think I heard you say that I've just got a question about homelessness.
That's originally registered?
I asked two questions. I submitted them yesterday.
I only have one question submitted from you, and that was regarding to homelessness.
Sorry?
I have one question that was submitted from you in front of me, that was regarding to homelessness.
Why not the original one about the footy club?
I can't speak to that one, sir. It may have been omitted, but we'll go with the homeless one first, if we may.
Well, it was submitted in good time before midday yesterday.
Not debating that at all, sir.
Do you mind if I ask it?
We'll talk to the homelessness one first, and then we'll talk to the homelessness one first, and then I'll receive some advice.
All right. Well, I'll lawfully notice the CEO about the first question then. In regard to homelessness, I actually don't see what business council's got to do about homelessness, because it's a state government matter. I recently wrote to a number of the local politicians about the homelessness, quoting the fact that there's something like $320 million every year that the state government harvests in public housing rentals. And my information from a tradesman that came to my public housing residence told me there's 8,000 public housing dwellings in Geelong, which, if I work it out on my rent, works out to about $1 million a week they're getting from here.
All right, Gary, I know you submitted a full question. Could we?
Well, there's something like 4,000 homeless now, probably more in Geelong. And that number's gone up from, in less than 10 years, from 167, verified by a lady at a GPAC forum, community forum, around 8 or 9 years ago. And it seems to be that nobody, including council, has made a dent in the homeless numbers. So I wonder what you are actually doing, or what any of the organisations around here are actually doing, because the Salvation Army doesn't have any properties. So I think you should, I'll put it to you, why don't you just bail out of the whole homelessness thing and leave it up to the state government, because none of the organisations here seem to have achieved anything. The homelessness keeps going up. And a reply I got from Bev MacArthur told me, expect more homelessness because of government policy.
Okay, I appreciate that, Gary. But do you want to answer your question of whether council should get out of
Well, the lady here from HBAG asked a question and you don't want to answer it.
Maybe answer any question.
I don't think, well, you haven't done anything in the last 10 years. You haven't achieved much, as far as I can see.
I take that as a submission. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, all right, well, send the question about the footy club to the CEO and yourself and see what you got to say.
Thanks. We've just had a chat with governance and they're going to have a chat to you as well to make sure they got that question. Thank you. Di Donato.
Question.
Please,
What are you going to do
you
about
made the
homelessness?
submission.
Because you haven't done anything. You've not
What
achieved
is it?
anything. And it's not council's job to house people. It's council's job as a municipal corporation to deliver municipal services, and housing is not one of those. That's the job of the Office of Housing and whatever, Families and Fairness.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay?
Take that submission. Cheers. Dante. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. Excuse the nervousness.
All good. No, it's take your time. Your time will start when you're ready, but don't stress. It's all good.
I just need to refer to the text on the phone because I didn't, don't have the
worries.
question. Thanks. Okay. Look, No, that's... Thank you. I felt it was important for me to come and speak tonight because obviously you're voting on whether this project, 26 Park Street road ceiling, goes ahead or not. And it was a bit of a close call with the voting with the residents. I personally, I responded to the questionnaires and so on, and I asked for a review on my particular property, which I didn't think I got a acceptable response back from town planning. And so the question relates to the sort of equities of how the cost distribution has been allocated. And I understand, and even from the last person that asked questions, that you'll be now debating this later tonight. And there were three different options as to how the charges were going to get allocated and so on. And could I mention also that this table in page 139 has got some serious errors in it, or one major serious error. There's one property that's got a street frontage listed here as 10 metres, and it should have been about 50 metres. But I believe the council, because I spoke to council this morning, yesterday, and they said that they were going to mention that error. So the question was, why wasn't, and that's my property, number 26, given the same cost allocation considerations as number 28. 28 is paying a half share because they've got access to their property via Langdon Street. And as I mentioned in the question, both 26 and 28 both face Park Street and Langdon Street being a sealed road already. We both have access to our properties and to and I have a garage door. I've submitted photos and so on from the Langdon Street side. I've also expressed to council that I didn't need access from Park Street, and we were planning to get rid of the old tilted door, make the house look more aesthetically nice by changing the cladding, and I was wanting to put in a security fence across the front yard in keeping with the adjoining neighbours. So I guess for me it's about the way that the cost allocations have come about, and I think even the previous speaker mentioned that he had access to Willis Street for his access. So council has emphasised to me that I'm being charged the allocated cost because of the benefit that my property gets from that sealing that road, but I don't believe that it's been fairly done. And anyway, I'll leave it to you to discuss and see whether the project goes further, or whether it's reviewed in the way it's been done.
No, thank you for coming in and voicing your concerns there, Dante. So as I said, the special charge scheme for sealing Park Street in Port-Arlington will be considered tonight, so I can't get into any personal views upon it. However, Apparently, a number of apportionment methods were considered, including using of boundary length of properties abutting Park Street, and after careful consideration, as mentioned prior, the fairest and most equitable cost apportionment in this instance was using land value of benefiting properties. 28 Park Street was not considered to obtain an access benefit from Park Street based on existing buildings and a formerly constructed vehicle crossover having been built to Langdon Street. Its proposed charge represents half the value of the land due to us considering the benefit to be sole amenity. Your property currently has no formal vehicle crossover to either Park Street or Langdon Street, but has the ability to access of both. We appreciate your advice is that you do not need access to the existing garage, is that correct? And you plan to remove it?
I disagree that I don't have I have a properly constructed curb access in Langdon Street. It's a formed access driveway. It hasn't got the concrete crossover. Not all the residents down the street have the concrete. They've chosen to keep the grass and the greenery, but I do have a properly constructed curb access via Langdon Street.
Okay, I see the difference there. And I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. However, as I said, I can't give any personal opinion on this, but it will be debated, so I do encourage you to hang around and see that happen shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jean Nell. Hi, Jean.
I'm fine, thank you very much, and good evening, Mayor and councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to ask some questions. My name is Jean Nell, for the record. I'm here in my personal capacity, but I think it's important to note that I'm a member of Cool Geelong. We are a community group that aims to inform and inspire people, including the Geelong Council, to take action to create a climate-resistant Geelong, specifically a healthy tree, or maintain healthy tree canopy. I think we need to make up time, so I'm going to cut right to the chase. At the previous council meeting, I pointed out that the report that was tabled specifically stated, and there's no indication in that report that there's community engagement. The officer recommendation didn't include community engagement originally, and the officer recommendation, that report from the officer specifically stated community support was not explored. However, the report contained several references without evidence about concerns about red tape, and in fact, I think one can compellingly argue that there's a bias there. I ask, so with a report that without evidence speculates about concern about the cost involved, how come the report didn't mention at all the petition we submitted in December 2021? My question was, why was the petition omitted? Why was official correspondence with the council omitted? The answer I got was, thank you for your advocacy, and we think this is an important issue. We look forward to councillors talking about this report, which had no mention of community engagement. By the way, later in the meeting, I think you all agree that's not an answer. So I'm back again tonight to ask, can the council explain the reasons for the omission? So listen, hear what I ask. Because in 2021-22, again in 2023, we've come to council, we've raised this thing, council is not answering our questions. There was a deviation in 23. I fear we're back to smoke and mirrors. My question is, can the council explain the reasons for the omission? Why was it deemed appropriate to make recommendations without public consultation and without reflecting the public views officially presented to council? So when you read that question, think about whether you're answering my question. Will you read that answer?
Thank you very much, John, for your question. Seeing as you were previously given an explanation or an answer that you disagree with, I'll actually go to the Director of Placemaking, Janelle Bradley, for a response and further explanation. Thank you.
So it was a notice of motion that the council report was responding to last month, and the notice of motion requested that the officers present options to council for the management of trees on private land, and that community engagement would form an integral part of if there was a change in approach or change in strategy. So the intent of the officers was to put the council report up, have councillors consider the options, and then proceed with community engagement post that. After that meeting, I have discussed with officers about the community engagement, and we're currently working up a community engagement plan, and we'll be in touch to discuss your participation in that. So I thank you for raising that again.
Thank you for that response. And may I just, on a point of order and clarity, the meeting terms of reference allows for questions for clarity. But my question is not about the motion. My question is about the fact that the report, did no one communicate to the report writer, and that report was 4 drafts. So it took 18 months. Did no one communicate to the report writer that we've received official communication in support of regulation?
Are you referring to the petition that you referred to before? Yep, I will follow that up. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. My second question. I note that the media statement the City of Greater Geelong released on the 28th of February leads with, it has the title, the heading, which sends it signals a message. The title is Further Community Engagement and Advocacy. Now, I've read that report. I've also read the officer's report. Nothing on page 6 of that report in the process indicates community engagement. I can't find anything in that report. My question to councillors, and again, think about that response, where in that report, where in this process is the community engagement that the media release purports, conveys that the further engagement is going to be built on? Tell me where. And if you can't, why does the council release a statement using the word further if there's not been any before?
Jean. The media release you're referring to states the issue of tree protection on private land will become open for discussion, and that the city will open up consultation. The report notes that community consultation was not explored when researching the options. The city is currently working on an engagement plan, which will be communicated to the public in due course. And of course, we'll certainly welcome your contributions when the community consultation begins. I do note your objections to the title, the leading of that, but the body of the media statement, I believe, is correct, and it says that we will become open and that we will open up for consultation.
Just for clarification, my question is, why did you use the word further if there's none?
To review that.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Louis De Coca. Hey, Louis.
Well, I hope so are you and the councillors, and I'll do my best to keep this very short. Reviewing the agenda for the last meeting and the minutes, as I think they were in a previous form, I tried to make sense of them because there were a number of events and there were also questions asked about the agenda as it was set then, but looking at the minutes on their own, they didn't really trace the developments that took place. So I tried to find the original agendas, and I realised that's difficult. Other councils publish their agendas and their minutes. I couldn't find the agendas for council minutes of the Geelong Council. Now, this level of transparency about basic management documents is required by the FOI Act, it's required by the Local Government Act. It is also envisaged by the City of Greater Geelong's public transparency policy. It's good governance. It is making information, standard information about your meetings available to the public, not only now, but also for the future, when there's no one around who can recall what happened at what meeting. Looking at that, at the minutes, they did not incorporate the agenda. Frankly, all minutes reflect the agenda to some extent, but it doesn't recreate the agenda. So, my questions are, was I simply looking in the wrong place? Is there actually a web agenda archive of your meetings? And if they're not available, how does that align with basic principles of good governance and transparency?
Thank you for your question. So as you've alluded to, the council minutes are prepared to include the entirety of the council meeting agenda. They're merged into one document which is published on the city's website. Original council meeting agendas can be provided upon request. However, at the current stage, they're not uploaded as two separate documents post-council meetings.
I don't want to return to the next meeting. I really think you need to improve. You can do better. It's easy. It's 10 documents per year that you put out on the web and it's available.
No, we appreciate your thorough suggestion there, Louis, and I'm sure corporate services are taking strong note.
I will look out for that, otherwise I'll have to be back. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Is there a Marilyn McLaren here today? Marilyn? Louise Skeen. How are you, Louise?
Thank you.
Excellent. Pleasure.
I'd like to say thank you very much for the Bellarine Aquatic Centre. It's an absolutely fantastic facility for the North Bellarine and we love it a lot. So my question is relating to that. Councillor Trent Sullivan, you were asked a question on your Facebook page on the 10th of September 2020 by Julia Reid, and I quote, "Will the outdoor pool be heated and open all year round?" You replied, "The pool will be heated for year-round use. Energy efficient measures such as a night cover to retain heat and solar panel powering will provide an efficient and cost-effective model. This implies that the pool was planned to be open all year round. Also, during the construction, it was said, again by yourself, I quote, "The pool will also be heated all year round so residents can keep swimming during the cooler months while we work to secure funding to construct an indoor pool. This is clear evidence that suggests the pool was specifically designed and promised to be open all year round. Why has Council not met this promise? And if the cost-effective measures are in place, then why not keep the pool open all year round?"
I believe you've got two questions there. Louise, would you like to put them both in one?
Yes. If Council is saying that it's too expensive to keep North Bellarine Aquatic Centre open over winter, then how are they going to fund running costs of stage 2 of the project, which involves an indoor pool as well, and when is stage 2 due to start?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you needn't refer to my Facebook comments. All official media as well has stated that the North Bellarine Aquatic Centre, throughout design process, consultation and implementation, was thoroughly and absolutely meant to be a year-round facility accessed by the North Bellarine and wider Bellarine community. However, last year's budget, as we all know, was a difficult one for Council and the entire community, and the Council's financial sustainability was at risk, and based off patterns, it was decided at that time, which I believe, to make a temporary closure for the hours for terms of, to make good financial measures and reclaim some money back in the budget. Council is committed to providing safe and accessible swimming facilities, and we are actively exploring options to extend the opening hours of the North Bellarine Aquatic Centre, all while considering financial efficiencies. Tonight, Council will be addressing this as a matter of urgent business. As many people here will be aware, myself and Councillor Wilkinson have been working on this. Further to your second part of your question there, Stage 2 is due to commence in mid-2024 with a detailed design process. We do believe the added facilities onto it will add to the financial sustainability of the centre as a whole, because it is meant to be a full North Bellarine Aquatic Centre, not just a Stage 1 nor Stage 2. But I do want to extend my gratitude for yourself and the North Bellarine community whilst we entertain these or have to deal with these complexities. The safety of the well-being of the community is important. We certainly, and your Bellarine Ward Councils in particular, certainly want to see the MBAC remain as a year-round facility, as we do understand it is well utilised, even by ourselves as well.
So will there be some sort of outcome on that tonight?
Will be voted upon tonight, yes.
My husband has got the next questions. He's not here tonight.
Proxy for Chris Skeen as well?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
So the first question there, summer from the 1st of December 2023 to the 29th of February 2024, there were 26 reported fatal drowning incidents. This is six times more than the 5-year average. And that is a statistic on the Lifesaving Victoria website. Sorry, it's not 6 times, it's 6 more, I beg your pardon. The City of Greater Geelong has a responsibility to develop programs for people that have been identified as high risk of drowning. Why would the City consider closing any of your pools with this dreadful current statistic in place?
So drowning figures and swimmer safety is definitely a high concern of Council, and was taken into account when any pool or aquatic facility is built within our region. We're definitely aware that having more aquatic facilities open to the public does increase people's water safety, their knowledge, their ability to swim and survive, as we are a waterlogged nation. These statistics were not public when Council was originally making budget considerations, which were end of financial year last year. But as I said, you'll be hearing us debate it further this evening.
Last question from the Skeen household. The health and wellbeing of our community, including the physical and mental health and the social connection, are an important part of keeping the local community healthy. A local pool matters. How can COG even consider closing North Bellarine Aquatic Centre if these things are key values of the organisation?
Couldn't agree more. Physical, mental health and social connections are incredibly important. We've seen the rise in that in swim groups across the Bellarine in particular. So it's definitely aligning, I believe, with Council policies and Council goals to keep the aquatic facility open year-round. But as I said, we'll be discussing it later this evening, so I do hope you stick around for that.
Swimming to you, Trent.
Likewise.
You love your swimming like we all do.
Absolutely. Thank you. Monique McLeod. Hi, Monique. Excellent.
Thank you for this opportunity, and I'd like to reiterate Louise's comment by a lot of different people. In terms of the background of my question, the first one relates to 2 things really. UV exposure over my question, also acknowledging a disparity between the opening hours of Cardinia and North Bellarine and the inequity that exists there. To start with, just noting that the UV exposure risks are highest during summer, the summer period. There are consistent BOM, SunSmart, Willy Weather notifications warning about high UV indexes over the day, consistently between 10 and 5 p.m. I want to refer to the restriction of hours that exists, particularly in the afternoon period and also over the weekends from 10 o'clock in the morning. I've been tracking the UV levels, and consistently at 10 a.m. the levels go up. It then becomes a moderate UV risk up to high risk, even very high risk. My suggestion is that restricting access to the facility directly contravenes key aspects of the City of Greater Geelong's Community Plan 2021 to 25, in which it is stated active living is an important factor of maintaining overall health and well-being and preventing chronic disease. Providing the community with equitable access to safe environments that promote active living is an ongoing priority, and that was our community plan, A Proud, Safe and Healthy Community, 2021 to 25, page 16. I also referred to the quote, "The city takes an equity focus approach to its work and aims to create more health-promoting environments where people live, work and play as a way to influence the adoption of health-promoting behaviours." Again, that was in our Community Plan 2021 to 25, Public Health and Wellbeing Strategic Context, page 10. So the question is, why has the city allowed comparison to Cardinia Pool, NBAC, operating hours curtailed at weekends and on weekend evenings, preventing people from using a safe environment and being able to swim during lower periods of UV intensity if they wish or need to do so.
Thank you for your question there, Monique, and thank you for raising the topic of equity of access, the parity of access to aquatic facilities. As you know, the NBAC was originally designed as well as a measure to combat inequity of access to aquatic facilities across our municipality. The splashdown facility, which is just inside the Bellarine ward, was registered as servicing the Bellarine community, whereas in fact by road it was closer to Lara than St Leonard's. I do appreciate your questions around the timeframes on its opening. I'm no stranger to going out for a swim for an hour around midday and coming back with unexpectedly red back, neck and shoulders due to higher UV levels, something we all must stay aware of. It's a common we get for the community that the hours are not open as early as people would like, especially when Cardinia opens at 5:30 and often during the weekdays, and the NBAC opens at 6, and then it does close at 5 or 6 p.m. on weeknights when Cardinia Park is open later. This is something we hope will be rectified upon analysis of visitation numbers and the subsidy per visit on that, as I believe, and Bellarine ward residents do believe, that there has been sufficient visitation utilisation of this now much loved community facility that we all believe we recommend needs to be open year round and for longer hours as well.
Question. And it just relates to something Lou said before about an electric and solar heating system, and then cost-saving measures of having a pool cover that would obviously retain heat. I haven't seen it in use, and the staff have told me at the pool that to be used. In terms of obviously financial responsibility, cover hasn't been able to be used, substantially increase the budgeting of heating costs, or the budgeting of heating, and if so, what plans are in place to resolve this?
Thanks for the question. I haven't been made aware that a pool cover is providing a particular issue or driving up costs above what one would expect. The good thing about stage 2 is that is designed to provide further wind mitigating measures, which if things aren't being utilised correctly right now because of that, that should certainly knock the one on the head. Nick? People will note that we have well and truly gone over the allotted question time frame, but there's certainly, I do believe everyone needs to be heard, so we will continue on with the pre-submitted questions. Geraldine Harrington. Geraldine, here tonight? Geraldine.
Councillor Sullivan, sorry.
All good.
Thank you for listening to me. I also want to say thank you very much for this wonderful pool that we have. It's the best outdoor pool I've ever swum in, and I'm really disappointed with the proposed closure. So my question, without going on too much longer, is can you please justify spending over $15 million of taxpayers' money on the North Bellarine Aquatic Centre, then closing it for 7 months of the year to the public? And the second question, which follows on from that, is what is the difference in the operational costs of maintaining the closed pool? Because I understand you still need to pay someone to keep it clean and to heat it to a certain level for 7 months, as opposed to opening it for restricted hours during this time.
Thank you. As you'll be aware, the pool was majority funded by the federal government in election campaign, $10 million from the feds, $5 million from council. We were the delivery partner that did implement the building of the facility. We do believe it should be originally used for its original purpose of year-round facility, as do most people in our community and to Bellarine ward councillors as well. In regards to the giving up of operational costs, we do have some estimated costs right now, but I'm not sure we can make them available right on the minute, but they will be made available in a report that hopefully will be coming to council shortly, which will be made publicly available. So in train. Thank you.
Time.
All good. All right. A question from Nicole Hopkins, who may have a proxy here, being Glenn Brown. There we are. Hi, Glenn.
Very well, thank you, Councillor. Right, I'll just go straight to questions from Nicole. I would like to understand the decision-making process involved in overturning the grant from Hamlin Park to Elderslie Reserve. What did the councillors see that the council officers, who've worked with both clubs over many years, what did the council see that the officers did not? They must have seen something to overturn that recommendation. We'd like to know what it was.
Yep, thank you. I'll first make an overarching statement in that the Victorian government funding process is competitive for these grants, and while outcomes are not guaranteed, we are committed to exploring all avenues for Hamlin Park Reserve upgrades, and council officers are actively pursuing funding and grant opportunities to support facility upgrades right across the community, and this does include female-friendly change rooms at Hamlin Park. The City would also like to emphasise that every decision made by our council is evaluated and comes with recommendations from City staff. Recommendations serve to guide councillors in their decision making, and it is not uncommon for councillors to exercise their discretion and propose alternative motions based on careful consideration. The City understands the disappointment within the community regarding the recent decision to prioritise Elderslie Reserve upgrade project. However, it is essential to provide context in that both decisions were shortlisted by staff during a comprehensive review, and both were deemed to have strong merit. The discussion to prioritise one over the other was, I'm sure, difficult, but was made in accordance with the governance rules. Straight back comment there.
That's your answer, Councillor Sullivan? Wow.
Glenn.
Okay. Second question. In regards to the grant submission amendment from Hamlin Park to Elderslie Reserve, in what other business can you overturn independent informed advice and then have an uneducated vote, not only overturning the recommendation but also significantly increasing the amount of the money to be made available without reasonable debate and due diligence? Make it clear, we understand that the process is legitimate, and that's what the process is, but how do you allow that process to go ahead? That process needs to be addressed, and we're asking how and when.
Thank you, Glenn. Apologies. There we go. Thank you, Glenn and Nicole, for the question. I understand you disagree with the process that was undertaken. No?
No, I just said, do you mind if I speak? We understand the process. Right? It's the process that's led to a invalid outcome in our view. So I don't want an answer back just saying the process is this. We're asking, what can you do about the process in order to prevent this event happening to other community clubs when they come up to the council expecting a merit-based decision?
Thank you. So that would require a review of council process, meeting procedures. That would be an extensive review. I'm not quite sure when those regulations or guidelines are due to be upgraded. They are reviewed regularly, perhaps every 4, 6+ years. But I'm not aware of when the next date is.
Right. Okay.
Wish to add to that?
Somebody, please.
Mr Mayor, I do. I'd like to make a short statement that addresses all of the questions on this topic. So thank you, Glenn, in particular, and to all of the residents who have submitted questions tonight. It's not my role as a councillor to simply rubber stamp whatever council officers put forward to the council chamber. And this council, like all councils, regularly deals with recommendations from council officers. And councillors are free to accept, reject, or amend those recommendations as they see fit. In fact, anything coming to the council chamber is up for debate, amendment, rejection or approval. For example, every month council's planning committee meets and deals with planning applications with recommendations from council officers. And residents regularly come to the planning committee seeking help from councillors to overturn a recommendation from a council officer. Councillors regularly reject or amend council officers' recommendations at that committee. And at nearly every council meeting, residents ask councillors to not support recommendations that council officers make on various reports. And this issue was no different. And I want to point out that this was not just about council allocating funding to a project. It was actually about council deciding which projects it would submit to a Victorian State Government grant application round. So therefore, until the state grants funding, which it may or may not do, there is in fact no funding for Elderslie Reserve or for any project. The discussions about which projects council would submit to the state grants process have been ongoing since January 2024 and occurred over several briefings. Because the projects were so close, there were several discussions over which project would go forward. The facilities at both grounds are in obvious need of an upgrade, and dedicated female facilities for all sporting codes are clearly needed. And that's why both projects have been placed on council's priority projects list for upgrades to change facilities to support increased female participation. I have visited both facilities in my role as a Brown Bull ward councillor. I regularly attend football and netball games at all 3 levels that are played in the Geelong and the Bellarine. And clubs nearest my residence in the city of Greater Geelong, St Albans Football and Netball Club, the Newcombe Power, East Geelong Eagles, and last but not least, the Thompson Tigers, regularly see me at their home and away games. An alternative motion was circulated to councillors in mid-February following advice from council's governance unit, and that was discussed amongst councillors for over a week before the council meeting. Local State MP Christine Cousins has indicated her full backing for Elderslie Reserve, writing a very strong letter of support to council for that project. The project that council supported has the strongest chance of success for this round of grant applications. Prior to the council meeting, council officers confirmed that the alternative motion complied with all of council's governance rules and state government requirements, and this was confirmed also by external legal advice. If other councillors wanted council to put the Hamlin Park project forward, they were free to move an alternative motion or amend the motion on the floor.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. Can I just ask for clarification?
What's your point of order in relation to?
There's actually a number of statements that actually can be challenged, and so councillors are under responsibility to actually make statements that actually can be backed up by fact. So I'm concerned that statements that are being made are actually, we're not debating the issue. There's actually a question being asked, the Mayor's responded, and we're now getting a statement that's actually being read that can be challenged. Now, I don't wish to challenge it in this forum, but I think it's appropriate that, that we seek some clarity about if you're going to allow statements to be made that are actually able to be challenged. Yeah.
Generally, when we do open up the floor, well, during question time, just for everyone's knowledge, during question times, all questions asked of the council are addressed to the Mayor as the chair of that meeting. I then delegate to other councillors, give them an opportunity to address to the relevant questions if they wish to add something on in terms of an answer. It is not, however, one that's been used for pre-written statements and generalised speeches to the audience or the gallery or the members of the public at large. So we are not wandering into that territory. Hopefully I'll throw back to you, Councillor Cadwell, if you can quickly wrap up with things that relate directly to the questions from Glenn, then we'll move on.
Mr Mayor, I actually said, as I said, this statement actually clarified a response to all of the questions, so it is quite comprehensive. So if I could be allowed
only
to
ask to answer questions as they are in front of us. So if there are any questions, if you have anything to say that relates directly to Nicole Hopkins' question, which is asked by Glenn as a proxy, you're welcome to do so.
I'm almost at the end, so if I could just continue.
It's I'm afraid it's already been challenged, and as I said, it's not a practice we've normally undertaken. If you have anything that relates directly to the question on the floor, if not, we'll keep moving to other questions.
It's been a standard process in this chamber that people are allowed to make a question in response to a number of questions submitted to the council.
Not to one that is a statement that is on large or sweeping. There are always people who wish to add to responses of direct questions that are currently being asked.
I think that I've actually answered the question, so thank you.
Thank you. Glenn. Jeff Jarvis. Why, Jeff?
Mr Mayor, councillors, thanks for your time. My question is for the councillors who voted for the amendment that saw council officers' recommendation that Hamlin Park be the preferred grant recipient overturned in favour of Elderslie Reserve. Were councillors aware that Elderslie Reserve has fully functioning modern facilities on the space between their netball courts and football boundary line fence? Was this not taken into consideration when assessing the need to overturn the council officer's recommendation? AFLW play on Sunday and netball play on Saturday, therefore both are able to use the same purposely built female facility.
You want to ask both questions at once, please?
My next question is addressed to all councillors. I'd like to know what steps can be taken to make sure the furor resulting from the unbelievable decision by ill-advised councillors to overturn council officers' recommendation for a grant from Hamlin Park to Elderslie Reserve is not repeated. In what other forum can, in this case a councillor, a person exaggerate the facts to suit, have them seconded and vote passed without fair discussion and debate? As can be seen by the public outcry, this does not pass the pub test. Surely this process needs to be overhauled as a matter of transparency at least. This is, after all, local government, and people need to have trust in the process.
Thank you very much, Jeff, and we do understand that you are representing Bell Park Sports and Rec as President here tonight.
Right.
I do need to reiterate that I do understand that there is disappointment within our community regarding the recent decision to prioritise Elderslie Reserve. The City would like to emphasise that, as said, every decision made by Council is evaluated and comes with recommendations from City staff. Recommendations serve to guide councillors in their decision making, and it's not uncommon for councillors to exercise their discretion and propose alternative motions based on consideration. I understand and take on your words, your requirement, the wish for a requirement of an overhaul of the system, that greater transparency may be implemented into the steps that may lead up to a process such as this. The decision was made in an open council chamber, as an open vote, as many people here were attending and did say. That is the highest level of transparency we can initially put on. Prior to that, there may be something that is undertaken and see what else we can be added into the process. But I do believe that all councillors who made the decision, many of them have already said, and many of them have not, but I'm sure they did, have alluded to their familiarity with the project, with the grants, and with all facilities that should be involved in that. Okay, that's my answer on behalf of Councillor Jeff.
First question, Trent, was did council officers
they aware of the facilities?
Modern facilities at Elderslie Reserve, was that taken into consideration?
I believe all councillors should, who made a decision on the evening, should have taken all that into consideration. Councillor Cadwell.
I'd like to address Jeff's question. Thank you, Jeff, for your question. In just continuing what I was saying earlier, the Hamlin Park project has actually not been rejected. It does remain a live project today that's looking for funding. It can be funded via a multitude of different ways, including the coming council budget. And I've certainly strongly advocated for that to happen in the 2024 council budget. I've also taken steps that address your question, which are to make council processes around grant applications and sporting club infrastructure more transparent. I believe that sporting clubs deserve certainty about where they actually sit in the pipeline of infrastructure projects and what support they can expect from council. I've requested that council examines its evaluation and prioritisation processes for all community sports and rec infrastructure projects. And I've also requested that council conducts a full review of our grant process, including our own internal grants and applications for state and federal government funding. The council CEO is committed to the councillor group that this will happen. I do agree that council could have explained this decision to the clubs and the processes around it to a much greater degree. However, the responsibility obviously falls not just to me, but to all councillors, including the Mayor, Deputy Mayor and to the CEO. Thanks, Jeff, for your question.
Cadwell. Neil Sandwith. Hi, Neil.
Well, good, thanks. Good to see everybody. I'm here pushing the same barrow as the last previous two people, but I won't do a preamble like everybody else did before they questioned, so I'll just read my question. My question is to the 6 councillors who voted for the amendment overturning council officers' recommendation in regard to Hamlin Park and Elderslie Reserve. I'd like to know what due process was applied in arriving at their decision. I believe that there was a matrix that showed Hamlin Park was needier than Elderslie Reserve. It was line ball, very close according to the matrix. This being the case, on what basis was the council officer's recommendation overturned if it was that close?
Question, Neil. As I reiterate, both projects were shortlisted by staff during their comprehensive review, and both were deemed to have strong merit. Recommendations served to guide councillors in their decision-making. Councillors evaluated the recommendation, the information they had before them, and they came to a decision. That was the decision on the night, and that's the standing decision of council.
Two, also the swimming people, I'm very pleased that they've got this pool, it's fantastic. I probably would imagine that they had female change rooms built when they got the pool done. My question is to the 6 councillors who voted for the amendment for the grant recommending the concerned Elderslie Reserve and Hamlin Park. I'm led to believe that this was the first time a grant recommendation has been overturned at an ordinary council meeting in the last 20 years. There would have to be a huge discrepancy in what council officers recommended and what the councillors who voted for the amendment saw. Could the councillors who voted for the amendment please let the public know what the difference was, whether or not they attended both Elderslie Reserve and Hamlin Park before the decision? I've been on the board for Belrec for some time. I've not had any of the councillors that I know here, except 2, come to Bell Park and ask for a tour of our facilities. So I find that what you're telling me and what actually happens may be two different things.
I understand your question, Neil. And you understand the timeframes that grant applications or recommendations are not often overturned, but councillors made a decision based on the information they had in front of them. They made an assessment, which is their right as elected members of their communities, and upon evaluating of both projects, they came to a conclusion. Thank you, Neil. Luke Keane. Luke. Right. Moving on.
Mr Mayor, if Luke's not here, I think it's important that I make a statement in relation to some of these questions as well. I have certainly been the focus over the past few weeks in relation to it. I had prepared questions.
Councillor Murray, can we just make a statement now? Statements, I'm encouraged by councillors to answer questions when they're on the floor, not in relation to questions that haven't been asked, that will have responses sent directly to them. We don't have processes that immediately just allow councillors to stand and make statements outside of those opportunities.
Mayor, if I may, I think actually Councillor Murray, he intended to respond to Jeff and other questions that were asked, and he just slightly missed his opportunity. But if he could respond to the previous questions that have been asked, that would be appreciated.
Thank you. Councillor Murray, is that what you're intending to do right now?
Mr Mayor, I was waiting for Luke Keane, who was going to be the last. I wasn't aware he wasn't going to be here.
I'm happy to speak to Luke's questions.
This is a proxy for Luke Keane.
Yeah.
It'll assist me in council procedure.
Well, I'm happy to be a proxy for Luke Keane.
We are in uncharted territory, but I will concede, and if you wish to make a response to the questions that have been asked on the floor, Councillor Murray, I will allow it.
I think it's important that I speak. The people from Bell Park have come to hear, I think, from me. I'll just put that out there.
You have the floor.
And they raised a number of matters in their questions, and I want to put this on public record, that I firmly believe I had no conflict of interest to declare. Yes, I coached at the club 25, 26 years ago for 2 seasons. I was not a Newtown player, I've never been on a committee there, I have no influence over the club, and have nothing to gain personally from any decision about funding received by the club. In fact, I have seen more football at Bell Park over the past few seasons than Newtown. And a few years ago saw a lot of football at Bell Park when my nephew played there. Apparently there was some belief that I was going to rescind my motion. This is totally incorrect. What I did promise was to seek instructions from the CEO as to what was required to rescind the motion, as Bell Park was receiving advice from another councillor, which I believe was incorrect. The observation that I ignored or overturned independent informed advice I disagree with. Weeks before the council meeting, the council group was informed that the 2 projects were line ball with each other. We were told we'll leave it up for the group to decide, or words to that effect. And a straw poll by the mayor was taken to see which was the preferred project. What further swayed me to do what I did was the comments from our CEO about the urgent attention required for asset renewal. That is, fix what we have. And in this case for me, it was Eldersley Reserve. And we never got to see the matrix used. In relation to the question from Neil Lynch, yes, of course I will do everything in my power to advocate, ensure that the Bell Park project gets funded in either available funding streams or in the upcoming budget. It has my full support, as has other projects from the Hamlin Park Master Plan, being the Geelong Ballroom Dancing, which I've been to a number of occasions, and the Western Heights College, been there and they're doing great things. Council, there have been many mistruths or untrue statements made over the preceding few weeks in relation to what occurred. And to those that have sent emails, messages and commented on social media and played the man, not the ball, this has taken its toll on me. Maybe that's just local government. Well, I've got nothing further, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. We'll move further down the line in terms of submissions and questions this evening. Number 20 is from Kathleen Richies. Kathleen. Hi, Kathleen.
Good, thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, councillors. In my question for today, I'm seeking information on the involvement of the City Council with a number of organisations that make or research equipment for Israel's defence forces, which go to the killing of Palestinians. Well, we all know Geelong has a very proud history of manufacturing, which has transformed now into a shameful build-up of an industry that relies on death and destruction, and which directly and indirectly is enabling Israel's genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. Deakin University and its Carbon Nexus Technology Research and Development Centre are at the heart of a cluster of interlinked companies, including BAE Systems, Quickstep, Morand, Precision Engineering and Chemring, that form an integrated supply chain for the defence industry. Together, they supply essential components for the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, among other weapons that the Israel Defence Force is using to commit genocide, war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza.
Yep, apologies, Kathleen. I've got a question here from you regarding about businesses in Geelong. There's another one from Maureen Richies, which mentions advanced fibre clusters and things you mentioned before.
Yep.
Are you Maureen's proxy?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, can you please, as I've mentioned to other people tonight already, these approved submissions are here, and can you please stick on script with the questions as they have been submitted?
Understand I'm speaking to my submission as presented, which I am doing. Yep.
The question is there, not a presentation. You've submitted a question.
So your answers, but you answer them in general as well?
Answer in general, but these are
and
specific questions and they want to be answered here.
Yeah, I can speak to my questions. That's my understanding.
6 minutes for the question, not to go off script. Some questions are accepted.
Depends when people go off script.
Pre-submitted questions are accepted based on the contents of them. If you're going to go outside the contents of your pre-submitted question, then it goes outside of the approval process.
I'm speaking to my questions.
I'm saying that questions that are pre-submitted are the ones that have been approved. Can you please stick to what you have submitted?
I am. Thank you.
You're not speaking to it, but are you saying it or are you speaking to it?
I just need to read what you've already got in front of you. No, that's not speaking to a question.
That's why I'm asking you to speak to the question. I'm asking you to say the question that has been submitted.
Well, I think you need to reassess what presenting a question on the floor is, because that's not
fine. I'm asking you to speak the question that you have submitted.
What I have here is that given the slaughter of more than 30,000 Palestinians by the Israel Defence Force under the direction of the Israeli government, I believe all levels of government in Australia must immediately stop providing assistance to Israel. I was seeking detail for what businesses in our council area specifically operate with Israeli involvement. I remember coming last year to some council meetings where there was a lot of lauding about
please, this is the second time I've had to ask you to stick
to
the pre-submitted. No, I haven't asked you to clarify, please, if you could stick to the pre-submitted question.
So I'm wanting to know what assistance Geelong Council provides to those operations. I want you to include study trips, investment incentives, manufacturing incentives. I'd like information to include dealings with the Geelong Chamber of Commerce and other formal organisations, such as the, can't remember what it's called, that went on at the council offices today. I want the City of Greater Geelong to immediately cease dealing with all entities who support, send equipment or research involved in research that assist Israel in their war crimes whilst invading Palestinian lands and killing Palestinians at a rate we've not seen before.
Thank you for your question, Kathleen. As I've said in this chamber before, and I'm certainly happy to repeat it, we express profound sadness with all residents and are overwhelming extreme concern about civilian and humanitarian catastrophes in Palestine and Israel. I appreciate why the question has been asked. It's also important to say that the responsibility for foreign affairs does reside with the Australian government, and we strongly endorse their position in advocating for an immediate ceasefire and the release of all prisoners. As City of Greater Geelong, it is our responsibility to do everything within our power to improve the lives in our region and leave critical issues of foreign affair to the Australian government. The sentiment and that message in relation to Palestine certainly apply in your question here. The City does not provide assistance to Israel. We are unable to provide a list of businesses within the City Council area who may have involvement with the current situation, as it's not our role to hold this information and such do not have it on supply.
Well, you do. I mean, because you've answered it in the question to my mum, part of it.
Answer that question if you wish to voice that one.
Yeah, if you want me to do that.
Thank you.
My question there, or my mum's question there was, and she's 90, mind you, so she's been around for a while. What role does the City of Greater Geelong play in the advanced fibre cluster? So for not knowing something, you've answered the question. Play in the advanced fibre cluster. Please detail support of any type provided to the cluster, be it financial or through non-financial means. Today, the City of Greater Geelong hosted a conference, the Advanced Fibre Cluster at council offices that was aimed at providing information to companies interested in doing business with weapons manufacturer BAE Systems. Why is the City of Greater Geelong hosting meetings for a weapons manufacturer that supplies the Israeli military?
Thank you, Maureen, for her question. The City of Greater Geelong, of course, is naturally focused on driving economic and jobs growth across the region by enabling business and industry prosperity through partnerships and collaboration. A key part of what we do. The City, along with many other businesses, industry groups and education organisations, are members of the Advanced Fibre Cluster, a not-for-profit group that supports the growth of advanced fibre and composite materials manufacturing in the Geelong region. The work supports local businesses across a range of industries and sectors, including sports, automotive, defence, boating and textiles. The Advanced Fibre Cluster also works across government, business and industry to support upskilling and developing supply chain opportunities for local businesses and aligned advocacy. As we know, Geelong is globally recognised as an advanced fibre and composites technology development and manufacturing hub, which are used across many different industries. The City supports the Advanced Fibre Cluster's goal of supporting innovative local businesses, developing a highly skilled manufacturing workforce, and creating new local jobs and industry opportunities that can support our region's economy. These are all locally focused goals.
Thank you. So do I take it from your response that the council is not prepared to state that they will refuse to supply any funds that go toward the creation of Israeli weapons?
My response to your question, this does stand as current. Kathleen.
Yes, you won't provide that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A question from Noor A, if I've said that correctly.
Hello, I am here on behalf of Noor as she had some personal matters to attend to. Her question, however, is, during the council meeting in November last year, it was clarified by a council member that you have been instructed not to discuss the topic of Palestine due to fear of inciting violence. Why was this judgment made about Palestine but not Ukraine when the council chose to support them? Does this matter that the council views and assumes Arabs, specifically those in Geelong, are aggressive and violent by nature? If not, please explain why this assumption of violence was being indicated was either made clear by yourself or CEO Ali Wasty.
Thank you for asking that question on behalf of Noor. Just a matter of public record, we'll need your name so we know who's asking the question.
Daily.
Thank you very much. The City does not assume any group within the region is violent by nature and has never made a statement of such. Our responsibility is to do everything within our power to improve the lives of people living within the region and leave critical issues of foreign affairs to the Australian government. Thank you. Kelly.
Mr Mayor, can I comment on that?
Councillor Hathaway.
with all due respect, Mr Mayor, I just want to take up that last point of that, of leaving critical issues of foreign affairs to the Australian government. You know, Council has made a statement which you read out publicly in November, and I believe there was further correspondence as well from Council to federal members. And there are now several local councils across Metro Melbourne that have discussed this matter in the chamber and voted on things. So I would just like to state my view that I think there's a role for any elected member at any level of government to be commenting on these matters and stating for the record that there is a genocide occurring in Palestine.
Thank you, Councillor Ackroyd. And with that, that calls to an end to our public question and submission time for the January, February, March Council meeting. I will now be calling a 5-minute recess before going into reports and items of urgent business. Thank you.
rather than the council allowing.
Yeah.
That's all right, I'm happy.
But to full councillors. Thank you. With all councillors and executives back, we will proceed with the council meeting. Moving on from the question submission time, we will go into tabling into petitions. I believe there's a petition to be tabled by Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd like to introduce this petition on behalf of the community and specifically on behalf of Louise Skeen, who organised this petition. This introduces the idea, it's the North Bellarine Aquatic Centre closure. This petition contains around 2,200 signatures. It's residents and ratepayers of Greater Geelong, and it hereby petitions the City of Greater Geelong to extend the opening hours of the North Bellarine Aquatic Centre. So the purpose of this petition, and the people whose names, addresses and signatures are below, the City of Greater Geelong is planning to close the North Bellarine Aquatic Centre at the end of March 2024 and will not reopen until November 2024. This means that the pool will be closed more than it's open. Our fantastic facility will not be able to be utilised by the local community if it's closed for 7 months of the year. Given that this pool is brand new, is heated and well supported by the local community, the City of Greater Geelong needs to extend the months that this pool is open to the end of May 2024 and open again at the start of October 2024 ongoing. The opening hours of the pool also need to extend and be in line with the other pool facilities, open 5:30 a.m. and close at 8 p.m, especially over the summer months. Since the news of the closure of the pool, I have received hundreds of emails and messages and have spoken to people within the community supporting this petition. I have heard from people of all ages who have also signed this petition that coming to the pool and exercising and connecting with their community is important, whether they're swimming laps for life to raise awareness and support for young people with mental illness, or if they're training for events, exercising as a recovery, walking or swimming to connect with friends and meet new ones, learning and teaching others how to swim, hanging out with mates, participating in school events, grandparents and grandchildren exercising together to improve health and decrease socialisation. So this is a 2,200 strong petition. I fully endorse this, and I table this petition.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. The petition is tabled. All right, councillors, we have an item here in section 3 on tonight's agenda being urgent business. I would like to move a procedural motion to bring that forth to deal with that now ahead of section 2 reports. Can I have a move on that in Councillor Deputy Mayor Aiken? Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? That is passed. Thank you. Councillors, I have an item of urgent business to introduce. This is in relation to the North Bellarine Aquatic Centre, its operational hours, the months of such. I wish to introduce this to the floor. I need to put that to the vote. All those wanting to hear an item of urgent business. Finally, do I have a seconder for this item? Councillor Wilkinson, thank you very much. We'll now engage in normal debate over the item. So there's been a bit of a process in getting a process around a urgent item of business. One was formulated late last week, which went through proper channels and was ticked off. I submitted to the government and the CEO and was ticked off and released. However, upon further reflection, consideration by governance, it has been updated to reflect the rules that councils must operate under when doing notices of motions and urgence of item business. This is proper and in line with council's rules. Therefore, my original item of urgent business, which requested year-round access, has been updated to reflect an allocation, a financial allocation for the months of April and May, and which is necessary because notices of motion and urgent business can only be maxed out at $100,000, so this $96,000 stays below that. And it requests an officer back to council by May 2024 to identify opportunities to enable the MBAC to remain open ongoingly. That is part of course as well here in the part that when we do notices of motions as such, a request for a officer report must be involved as well. So upon further reflection by governance and legal, it has been updated to reflect what myself and Councillor Wilkinson are able to submit to the council. Now, aquatics on the Bellarine. Aquatics across our wider municipality has been a passionate topic for many, many years. When I was first elected in 2017 with my fellow Bellarine ward councillors, Councillor Mason and Councillor Asher, it was something that we were immediately cognizant of. How could we expand aquatic facilities across the Bellarine? How could we improve our community's access, improve the quality of access to facilities which are so vital for all of us? Whether you're an experienced swimmer, whether you're learning to swim, whether you're getting just back into it or using it for health and rehabilitation. Aquatic facilities aren't just a want, they're a need and they're a necessity. So it's been a long journey for many of us on the Bellarine. There was petitions a decade ago about expanding of the Basque, and then we finally had action behind a North Bellarine Aquatic Centre. As I've said, the splashdown facility was registered to service the Bellarine community, where, as I've said, it is actually more direct by car to Lara than it is to those on the North Bellarine, such as Indented Head and St Leonard's. And all throughout the process, campaigning internally, externally, communication by council laws, by other members of parliament, it was aimed that we needed a year-round facility that suited the need, and that had multiple facilities in it. That's why we originally aimed for the North Bellarine Aquatic Centre, being stage 1, stage 2, outdoor, indoor facilities, learn to swim. We need it all, for we all know the growing population of the Bellarine and how access to aquatic facilities that encompass learn to swim, rehabilitation, all of the above, the entire health suite that comes with aquatic movements is so vital. So the community was promised a year-round outdoor heated pool that would be net neutral in terms of carbon emissions, have solar power, and will be an efficient building to maintain and run. And the community has well and truly been behind this from the get-go. And when we've seen the announcement now, the realisation that the MBAC is to close through over winter hours, the outpouring of support for it to remain open has been incredible. Over 2,200 signatories on a petition is enormous. The minimum for tabling is 12. So it hit to over 2,200 is incredible, and I'd like to thank everybody who's been involved in that process to date. It aligns to the quality of access. To have a facility open in just November last year and to possibly close in its honeymoon year is unfathomable by many. I do understand that we were in a very difficult financial situation when a budget was made that proposed the closure of all of our outdoor facilities for the winter periods. However, since then, we've had some extremely prudent financial measures put in. It was a tough budget, it really has, and our situation has been increasingly looking up. There has been savings that have been found, and there are needs that have to be met here. The needs of safety, of health for our communities, to meet the priorities we outline in our council plan, our council goal, to build a fantastic $15 million new facility, which upon completion in November, the builders are saying you'd be lucky to get this for $30 million now with costs blown out. It's actually fantastic what we have here and what has been delivered. And it aligns with our plan, with the infrastructure needs, with the community around it who need it and deserve it, with the growing population, with the schools across the road. It is just a facility that has been such a long time coming, sorely needed for so many years, has finally been delivered, And we have a responsibility to our community that we can deliver assets like this and that we can be responsible and keep them open for them. For what signal does it send to those around us? If we open new buildings, only to close them. So I believe this is an urgent item of business, being that it is scheduled to close, at the end of this month. It's a facility that we all love, that many of us use. I simply love having it down the road. It's absolutely fantastic. And very rarely have I ever hit my maximum time speaking limit, but I will do it tonight. I'll now move over to Councillor Wilkinson, who is seconding this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think a key factor of this pool particularly is its accessibility. So I've heard from people who have children or are themselves neurodiverse and have sensory needs. Being able to swim outside in a heated pool is an absolute godsend. I've heard from people with mobility issues who are able to access this pool. It really does, public schools like public libraries, they're essential places within our community. They make our community richer. The item the idea of actually opening until May does provide us with time to look and discuss hours going forward. It also allows us to take in information around the UV levels that were raised tonight and consider those opening hours. It's not the full year as it is, but certainly I would be advocating for this pool to remain open and advocating within the budget pending for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. I'll open the table for comments. I'll go to Councillor Contell first, then Councillor Mason.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm pleased that you've brought this in as an urgent item. I was interested to see what the Ballerine councillors were thinking about this matter, given the amount of correspondence we were receiving from the community. And I thank the community, the ones that are here and also the ones that have contacted us via other means for expressing their views. I'll keep my comments very short. It's my opinion that, in fact, all of our council pools should be opened all year round. It's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. And I think that the community should have every expectation that this pool here will be opened all year round. Councillor Wilkinson has already mentioned, as have you, Mr Mayor, the benefits, so I won't go into that other than to suggest I think we should be continuing to work really hard in our future budgets to try and have all of the pools within Geelong opened every day of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Contell. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. I too support the intent of this motion. And I'd note that you mentioned in 2017 there was a measurable lack of access by the Ballerine, especially the Ballerine residents, to other pools, and in one sense to the Cardinia pool, which was the 50-metre pool where a lot of training was going on. And certainly one of my motives is to achieve equality or equity in access. And that would not be happening if we have some pools running throughout the municipality and others not. So I think we've got to find some equity in this. I also understand that we're under severe financial constraints and that we're going to have to find some very creative ways in achieving our highest aspirations, such as Councillor Contell has just mentioned, in having all pools open throughout the municipality. We're going to have to find some really creative ways of managing this because of the extremely high costs. And there's another equity that I might mention as well, and that's equal access to all sorts of facilities in our municipality. It's not just swimming. I'm a very avid, I love swimming, but we do have to think of everybody and we do have to work out best ways of sharing our limited funds. On this occasion, I support the motion, but I know that we're going to have some difficult decisions in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Any councillors' comment? Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is probably a good segue into where council is really at with a whole range of services that we provide to the community. And in my time on council, it certainly has changed in many and varied ways. And I think there's a good argument being mounted now by the community that should council actually be building and administering pools or aquatic centres in today's climate. There's perhaps a good discussion to be had with the community and within council itself. Is this really where council should be in this particular space of aquatic centres, and what they need, and what can council truly provide that meets the community expectations? Because at this point in time, we don't seem to be doing it. Thank you.
Councillor Harwood. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, first I wish to congratulate the Mayor and Councillor Wilkinson for bringing forward what essentially is a notice of motion. A notice of motion is when the organisation's not able to respond to the community's request and the council's request. So I thank both of them for bringing forward this opportunity. In terms of my position, I actually support the endeavour that's being presented. Essentially, it's consistent with what this council has actually done for a number of years now. We have responded to the Cardinia Pool issue, where we have actually intervened and actually tried to provide more resources financially to be able to keep that facility open. And in fact, we learnt that during the COVID period it was essential to have outdoor swimming facilities, and Cardinia Pool was very well utilised by the community. The bigger issue that we're confronting here is that this actually isn't a solution, it's just a short stay of execution for the facility. And unfortunately, as Councillor Contels has mentioned, the aspiration really should be to have all of our facilities operating. What we do know is that we've got severe staffing resources problems. The reality is we don't have enough lifeguards and trained individuals to cater for the number of pools that we do have in the Geelong region. So there's a whole employment and recruitment program that we have to actually undertake in Geelong to be able to build that capacity. We've also got financial constraints as well too, to be able to do it. So the challenge for the organisation is to actually look at our operating models and our financial support that we actually are putting to these facilities. The community is demanding and has every right to demand that they should be available and a normal service provided in their local community, and as a consequence we have to find a way to be able to do that. Our current operating models and our current financial support that we're putting for them clearly do not match the community's expectations. So this motion, although it gives an extra 2 months, it doesn't resolve the bigger problem that we have in the city of Greater Geelong. And there are lots of other operating models that exist outside local government, in neighbouring areas as well too, of how operations can be opened and have larger, have more extensive opening periods. I think we learnt from the Cardinia Pool, it's a fallacy that it's too cold in Geelong and Victoria to have pools open 12 months of the year. Thank goodness that for COVID, because it actually taught us we could have open pools for 12 months of the year. So good luck to the administration to come forward with suggestions. The reality is the community is demanding it, and from this decision tonight it appears the councillors are demanding it as well too. We need to properly resource and fund our facilities that we do have in the community.
Thank you, Mayor Aiken. Any other councillors' comment? Councillor Hathaway.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I too will be supporting this matter of urgent business. I just wanted to acknowledge the residents in the room. I think to come to council with a petition of over 2,200 signatures in such a short space of time is incredibly impressive. So thank you for the work that you've done, and I think we've definitely heard you loud and clear tonight. And I think it's clear both from last year's budget process and now we're hearing very clear from the community that there's an expectation around public libraries and public pools, and that they're open and properly resourced. I guess as well as acknowledging community members too, I just want to acknowledge fellow councillor, Councillor Wilkinson, for your work on this, supporting the community. I think this is exactly what councillors should be doing. So I'll be supporting this motion.
Staffway. Any other councillors? If not, I'll close out and thank you for every councillor who has spoken on this in support. It is quite correct that when the proposed winter hours for Cadinia Park were to shut down, the community made their voices known wide and loud. I think we received a petition of just over 1,000, maybe 1,500. Well, the Ballawong community is no different and doesn't deserve any less equality in their access to these resources. And with a petition of over 2,000 showing just how passionate our community is. We have to be absolutely on the ball here in saying that Councillor Wilkes and I did originally request a item of urgent business that requested year-round access to the pool, but we have had to have that refined to follow due and proper governance, and that is correct, that we have to do that. So whilst this report will be coming to us by May 2024, identifying opportunities that enable the MBAC to remain open in an ongoing fashion. It will not be closing, although I think 1st of April is a public holiday, so we'll have to clarify on that one. But it will be staying open hopefully in April and May, definitely because of this. So happy swimming, everybody, and I do hope to pass, and thank you for everybody who has spoken in endorsement of this. We're not just the City of Geelong, we're the City of Greater Geelong and all of our wards and communities within its boundaries. With that, I'll table that and put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. I will now be moving into section 2 for the evening reports, and there will be the first Youth Council report for 2024, presented by Junior Mayor Tinu Yoyale Musor. Junior Mayor, would you please come up and join me up here?
To begin, I would like to acknowledge the Wathaurong people as the traditional owners of the land, waterways and skies, and pay my respects to elders past and present. Good evening, Mayor Sullivan, councillors, CEO, council officers, youth council members and the community here, as well as those who are joining us online. I am here tonight on behalf of the 2024 Youth Council to present our first report of the year. From page 4 of the report, we introduce each of the participants, including what they believe is the biggest issues in our community and what skills and experience they bring to their role. Throughout the induction sessions in January, we explored these topics, which helped us to understand why we each nominated ourselves for the program, and to get to know each other better, which connected us through our passion to improve our community. I am truly excited to work with the 11 Youth Council participants this year, who all bring a different set of skills, motivations, and passion to the 2024 program. And I can truly say that no matter what skills we build or opportunities that we're involved in over the next 9 months, we will walk away from the program with 11 more friends. The formal induction facilitated on January the 24th marked the Youth Council's official welcome to the City of Greater Geelong. This session took place at City Hall with family, friends and guests in attendance. Chaired by Acting Director, City Life, Amanda Locke, the event hosted guest speakers CEO Ali Wasty, Mayor Trent Sullivan, both speaking about the relationship and connection between Youth Council, the City and its councillors. After the presentations, it was time for the Junior Mayor election. 9 Youth Council members bravely put their hand up for the position of Junior Mayor. Each participant delivered a 3-minute speech detailing why they were the most suitable candidate. Across half an hour, we heard each candidate discuss their unique strengths, experiences, and what they hope to achieve in this position if they were successful in the role. I am proud to say I was elected as Junior Mayor, and Mercy Antanasio was successfully voted into the Junior Deputy Mayor position. I'd like to thank all Youth Council members who ran in the election and put their pitch forward. It was very heartwarming to see so much passion and motivation for change in the room. And like mentioned earlier, I cannot wait to work with my peers over the next 9 months. At our first meeting for the year, we got straight to work. We first endorsed the Youth Council group charter that we had developed in our initial induction sessions with the staff. We then reviewed and endorsed our 2024 Youth Council priority areas. It is important to note that this year's priority areas looks a little different. Participants discussed and agreed that the focus on diversity, safety, and environment was still very important areas of focus. However, financial and economic matters in the current climate have become equally important for issues of young people to focus on. Therefore, it was decided that the 5 priority areas would better reflect the growing needs of young people across Geelong. Based on this, the priority areas are as follows. 1. Protect the environment and increase sustainability across our environment. 2. Improve access to safe and accessible places for young people. 3. Celebrate diversity, foster equity, and reduce stigma. 4. Accelerate economic empowerment for young people. And 5. Progress health and well-being. Youth Council participants are looking forward to working as a team to address key issues and topics across these priority areas, to actively advocate for the needs and requirements of young people across our community. We look forward to working constructively with the councillors through our Councillor Connect mentoring sessions, where we have the opportunity to voice our opinions and listen to those of the councillors. Thank you and good night.
Thank you very much, Junior Mayor, for your presentation and insights up to what the 2024 Youth Council have been getting up to. Very progressive so far. So that report has been tabled. I'll ask that it's moved by Councillor Hathaway, thank you, and seconded Councillor Maloney. Councillor Hathaway.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Junior Mayor. So the 2024 Youth Council Advisory Committee of the City of Greater Geelong has submitted their inaugural report to Council, as we've heard tonight. Junior Mayor Timu authored the report, which outlines Youth Council's activities, discussions and initial efforts since its establishment in January. The report also emphasises the 3-day induction program facilitated by the City's youth development staff, where members familiarise themselves with the program's fundamentals and built connections with each other. The formal induction ceremony for the Youth Council occurred on the 24th of January here at City Hall. The report delineates the Youth Council's key priorities for 2024, as we've heard tonight, and are worth restating. 1, to protect the environment and increase sustainability across our community. 2, to improve access to safe and accessible places for young people. 3, to celebrate diversity, foster equity and reduce stigma. 4, to accelerate economic empowerment for young people. And 5, to progress health and wellbeing. Finally, the report introduces the 12 2024 Youth Council members and summarises their charter. So thank you again to our Junior Mayor Timu for the report.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. Councillor Maloney. Maybe.
Improv karaoke. Thank you so much, Junior Mayor Timu. That was incredible. And I just wanted to give a shout out to the people who step up every year to this program. And thank you, Scarlett, for organising. This is no joke. These individuals are stepping up into leadership positions. I was really privileged to attend the International Women's Day event where some junior councillors were given the opportunity to speak publicly, which is a fear held worse than death and spiders and snakes and all kinds of weird stuff for most people. Now, this report is legit. It has so many incredible action items and discussion points for us as councillors to take on board, and it really harks to the Dire Straits sentiment that is kind of going around in our region as to what needs to be improved when and how, and that's going to give us a direction for the budget. But it also really impresses me every year that people are pulling together their minds and their also their whole entire generation's perspective to give us an idea of what we should be doing and where we should be putting our money and our time and energy. And I really want to take my hat off and say mad respect and huge congratulations to those who get up public speak, write an incredible report like this, because most people in our constituency probably wouldn't have done anything like this, even in school. So that is an incredible commendation, really well done, and thank you for this incredibly professional report.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. I'll open that up now. Councillors? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Seem to get more impressive every year, and congratulations on that presentation to us. It was first class. And I see you were part of a media release today too, in relation to the junior, what do they call it, the junior hub? No, that's not the correct word. Youth hub, that has been out for community engagement and has come back. And it's ironic that was released today, and your first report is tonight, because the Youth Hub originated 2 or 3 years ago from the Youth Council. So it's just great to see that progress has been made by youth councillors that preceded you, and you're in the seat now to get the project further ahead. So the Youth Hub is going to be great for the youth of Geelong, and I think you're going to be a great junior mayor for the region of Geelong too, so congratulations.
Murray. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. I'd like to reiterate what's already been said. Thank you very much for a wonderful report, Junior Mayor Tinu Yole Musso. And look, there's two things. I note that you've referred to the past youth councils, but you're going to change the approach to some extent with 5 main points. But I'm also very pleased to hear that there is still some continuity with what you've done what has been done in the past. I'm also very sorry that I wasn't able to attend the 24th of January inaugural meeting where you were elected, and where we had the opportunity to meet all of the other youth councillors, all of whom I congratulate for their participation. And I particularly look forward to the Councillor Connect sessions with our Bellarine youth councillors, who are Shanae Roberts, Megan Watson and Emily Wolfe. And I've had a little bit of a look at their bios, and I know that they're interested in youth leadership, educational opportunities, physical health, youth crime, mental illness, equity of access and usage of youth spaces. So there'll be lots of discussions we'll be able to have with those people on the Bellarine side, but understanding the major big picture that's ongoing. I do note that you also had a report on the COVID-19 impact and how that has really affected youth in our region and in fact everywhere. And in fact, one of the points that was made by that report that the youth suicide has gone up. So we understand that the negative effects of COVID from your report and from past youth council reports is that the effects will be long lasting and remedial actions imperative. So we'll be listening for your advice as you work through the year, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Junior Mayor, for a fantastic report, and Junior Councillor, and for your presentation. I recently received correspondence from a group of grade 3s and grade 4s instructing me as to how Geelong could be improved. And I must say, this report covers off all of the, one was to actually introduce zip lines all around Geelong, but others were about health and well-being and addressing the environment, all sorts of issues that you have actually raised in your report. So your fingers are well and truly on the pulse of the youngest people in this city, and I congratulate all of you. I'm very excited about this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. We'll note we've already got one item of urgent business up tonight. Should we put in zip lines as well, or?
Sorry.
You can keep lines up as well tonight if you reckon. We'll go to the
I
next
think
one.
we should just keep going.
And then we'll do consideration. I hear some support, but we'll keep going.
Urgent item. Yep.
So, it's been seconded. Don't make me tell us, please, not yet. Further planning, please. Any other councillors to speak to Youth Council report? Deputy Mayor Aiken.
It's not necessarily the report, but can you pass back to all the 12 Youth Council members to say thank you from us? I know that all your family is very proud of every single one of the 12 councillors, and it's great to see members of your family here tonight as well too, to share in the experience. Your schools are very proud of you as well too, and each of the 12 youth councillors come from a variety and diverse range of schooling, and I think it's important to understand as well too, we're really proud of you as well too, as the 11 elected councillors of the City of Greater Geelong. Nothing probably gives us more pride than actually to see what our Youth Council is actually doing and bringing forward to us, and then the reports and presentations that come before us tonight. So thank you, and please pass on our regards to all Youth Council as well too for the fantastic work that you're doing.
Excellent, all right. There's nothing further to add. I'll go back to Councillor Hathaway to close.
Nothing further, Mr Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. With that, we'll put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? The item is carried. Can I please give another round of applause for our junior mayor, Helen Right, the second item on our agenda tonight is the draft fair access policy, moved by Councillor Contell, seconded by Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Contell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, tonight is, this report is asking us to endorse a draft Greater Geelong fair access policy, and for that to be included in our framework for public consultation for a period of 4 weeks. In terms of this report, what's being encouraged here from the state government is that we continue to improve and create opportunities for female participation in sporting areas, including community clubs, football, netball, cricket and the likes. It's asking councils that from July 2024 that councils have a gender equitable access and use policy in place to be considered eligible to receive government grants for infrastructure funding. So it really is putting an emphasis on council to make sure that we have policies in place that are encouraging and opening opportunities for female participation in sport. It's interesting that some of the statistics that are in this report are quite telling, that because of the lack of infrastructure that we currently have and the environments that we have created for females in sport, we're actually not getting the engagement that perhaps we could. And if you look at some of the key matters in item 7 of the report, where 28% of women have considered leaving their clubs due to inequitable treatment, and that's information that's been gathered through Change Our Game State of Play survey. Women are 2.5 times more likely to report feeling unwelcomed at sporting clubs compared to men. In addition, sports participation rates for girls 22% and women 16% across the City of Greater Geelong are considerably lower than that of boys, being at 37% and men at 24%. And so it's quite timely, given that some of the discussions we've been having around grants for facilities in the recent weeks, and that we'll be having in future weeks, months and years with grants that will become available from both state and federal, that we need to have a framework that not only develops gender neutral change facilities and bathrooms, but female and female friendly change rooms and facilities for women and girls in sport and sporting clubs. So what we need now is for this to be adopted, in my view, tonight by the broader councillor group, and then for us to ensure that we get the comms out there to make the community aware that this draft policy is out for consultation, and also for us councillors to use our socials and our networks to make sure that the community are aware of this draft policy, so that we get as much feedback as we possibly can in this 4-week period of time, and then that we take that on board and then obviously draft the final policy, which we've got a time limit to do, as I indicated earlier on. With that, I'll open it up to the rest of the group. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Contell. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Contell. Of note, in a recent census, actually done in 2023, only 30% of the City of Greater Geelong's community sports change rooms are gender neutral. We have a lot of work to do. This report contains 6 key policy principles. So infrastructure is one of those, community sports and active recreation, genuinely allowing people to feel welcome and included. Roles in sport, women and girls will be encouraged to participate in all aspects of community sport, including as a player, a coach, administrator, official, volunteer and spectator. So it's not just about the people getting the gear on and running around. Allocation and scheduling, women and girls will have fair access to use community sport and recreation infrastructure, which is of its highest quality, so most convenient. Leadership, women and girls should be equitably represented in leadership and governance roles. Culture and environment, encourage and support all user groups who access community sport and active recreation infrastructure to understand, adopt and implement gender equitable, and this goes back to Councillor Contell's point around education and support to understand what that really looks like, what that really means. Reward, celebrate and prioritise. So prioritise access, use and support to all user groups who demonstrate ongoing commitment to gender equitable access and use of allocated infrastructure. This is an important policy. This will really, I suppose, drive home and frame how we address the inequities within our city. And I strongly endorse this and the communication that Councillor Contell also suggested.
Councillor Wilkinson, other councillors to comment? Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. Clearly, I support what's already been said, and that people's rights, responsibilities and opportunities should not depend on their gender. And delivery of fair access not only applies to sporting venues and active recreational structure, but to parks, boulevards, shared trails, beaches and washroom facilities throughout the municipality. So that we really need to aim progressively to, as Councillor Contell said, amongst others, to build the culture and the capacity and the capabilities of the city and the associated stakeholders in identifying and eliminating systemic causes of gender inequality in our policy, programs and communications. And so we do have to encourage all user groups who access community sport and active recreation infrastructure to actively support and implement genuinely welcoming and safe, inclusive, genuine, gender equitable practices. Thank you.
Councillor Mason. Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I too want to endorse this policy, and I really want to encourage everyone in our community to have their say on this policy, particularly women and men, parents and grandparents, and women and girls who are currently playing sports, thinking about playing sports, or who may have felt, in fact, excluded from participation in local sports. We're supposed to be the country of the fair go, and this is a fair play policy, which is one of the ways that council can actually make that happen. And importantly, this policy is an important and necessary step in securing future funding from the state government. And on that note, as I've already said, I've asked the CEO and officers to take steps to make council's processes around our grant applications and sporting club infrastructure more transparent so that the sporting clubs themselves have more certainty about where they sit in that pipeline and what support they can expect from council, and requesting council to examine its evaluation and prioritisation processes for all of our community sports and rec projects, and that would obviously include applying a gender lens to all of our projects. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, males have had a 150-year head start on females in terms of community infrastructure, and this is really a policy-driven attempt by the state government to actually mandate an opportunity to try to catch up. The reality is that it's going to take more than 10 to 20 years to be able to make up the 150 years of funding that went to male sport. But I should say it's actually not just about infrastructure as well too. The intent is actually for council to have a look at its operations and also how females and women and girls access our facilities well too. And a good example I can give to you is we have some culturally diverse female groups that actually can't swim and bathe in front of males, and so what the state is actually encouraging local governments to actually consider is have a look at your operations, actually have a look at how you're making them accessible to women and young girls, and ensure that you don't have practices and procedures that exclude them from participating and being involved. So just be careful, it's not about just spending money on infrastructure, it's actually how we operate our facilities as well too, that currently exist.
No other councillors to comment? Also, Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, and thanks for the help with the mic. Really appreciate that. I had an email from a constituent who mentioned something to the effect of that the men's change rooms or the men's toilets could be made available to the women if they're playing, because they're playing on a Friday night or a Saturday and the men play on the Sunday, something to that effect. Why can't the women just use the men's change rooms? And I thought, actually, it's a pretty good idea. So perhaps there could be some flexibility around the timetables or the use of facilities, so that if, for example, we've got a run on women's teams playing that whole weekend, then we switch it up so that the venues themselves can be flexible for whomever is wanting to rock and roll in the venue. So I really want to hear more from constituents in this 4-week period. We have a tendency in Geelong, sorry to say, and I know I'm going to get some flack for this, but have a whinge after things have come out to light and we've made a decision on it based on consultation that we've tried to engage with the community. So please do get amongst this, have your say, and give us your thoughts, because some of them are absolutely gold. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. So other councillors to comment? I'll go back to Councillor Contell to close.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, we don't really have a choice here. We need to develop this policy, otherwise we'll be delinquent in our responsibilities, not only to the community, but to our obligations to be continuously improving the greater city of Geelong. And for us to be qualifying for future grants, the state government has given us a mandate that we must have an appropriate policy in place by the 1st of July 2024. It's timely that this report has come to this council meeting, given that International Women's Day was celebrated on the 8th of March, and I'm sure you'd all be aware that the theme of International Women's Day this year was Invest in Women and Accelerate Progress. That's exactly what the theme of this report is looking at ways that we can continue to invest in women in the City of Greater Geelong and accelerate our progress as a community.
Thank you, Councillor Contell. With that, put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Number 3 on the agenda, our Community Plan Quarterly Report to December 2023, moved by Councillor Nelson, seconded by Councillor Harwood. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report asks Council to note our community plan quarterly report up to December last year. The community plan is Council's key strategic document and outlines our priorities and what we will focus on over the next 4 years. This quarterly report tracks the progress from October to December last year, and it's really a scorecard of where we are as a city with regard to our projects. I won't delve too much into those projects just yet. I'll wait for other councillors to speak, but as I said, it's a scorecard. There were 75 actions, 57 of them were on track, 3 commenced, 5 delayed, 8 ongoing, and only 2 were complete. I'll leave the rest for my fellow councillors, other than to say I'm going to talk about trees, so please don't talk about trees.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Harwood.
Okay, I'll leave trees alone. The quarterly report is basically the officers coming back to the councillors and to the community to give a report on where the council's at with basically how they're tracking on, I guess, meeting their commitments to the services that we give to the community and to maintaining those services, and also obviously with the other major areas with capital projects in and around the region. And by and large, most are on track, which, considering the recent, I guess, changes within council at leadership levels, with staff changes, severe financial pressures and constraints, it's quite a reasonable report overall. It's always difficult to meet community expectations, and the numbers reflect that. We've always sort of hovered around, I guess, somewhere between the sort of 55 to 65% mark, basically, about how we're going with each particular service and project that we engage in, which is probably not too bad overall. I mean, we've always strived to try and get up to the high 60s into the 70s, but I think by and large Geelong has always been above the state average in a number of areas, which is still something to be reasonably happy with. But I think the next 6 months will also be a huge period of time and test for the community, for the new staff, for the new CEO. Again, meeting those community expectations, which is basically what the community plan is all about. And I just think, obviously we're coming into an end of a term, and I think as councillors we all have our expectations of how we'd like to finish the term, and we'd like to finish it on a high and meet those community expectations and hopefully give them confidence that this particular council, with its new leadership group and its current group, have performed to a good standard that is required. So let's make those quick comments. I'm not going to go into individual projects and etc., but it's just a broad comment about the plan itself and how we go about actually trying to achieve the best for the community. Thank you.
Councillor Harwood, very well said. Any other councillors? Councillor Contell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I agree with Councillor Harwood. There's been some good progress made. Having said that, there are a number of projects that are delayed, and the one that's continuing to sort of concern me is the Rippleside Playground. We really need to sort of progress that. We've now been on that journey for quite some time. I know that we've been having some discussions about that, but I think the community's expectations is that we get on and deliver that. But my biggest concern in this report, and I continue to encourage our organisation to put significant focus in this area, and that is the area of our workplace safety in terms of LTFRs and TRIFR. I noticed that both our LTIs and our TRIFR have gone up in recent months. They are quite extraordinary high levels of TRIFR and LTIs, and I think that's where we really need to be focusing as an organisation and as an exec. So I really encourage the CEO, and I know you will, but I really encourage the CEO to lead from the front in terms of lost time injury frequency rate and TRIFR.
Speak before I throw back to Councillor Nelson to close and speak about trees. Councillor Nelson, please.
In 2019, most of the people around this table will remember one of my pet projects was the Million Trees project to plant 1 million trees across the city of Greater Geelong and increase our tree canopy. In 2022-23, the city of Greater Geelong planted 3,000 street trees and 4,000 tube stocks. That's 4,000 trees. Councillor Maloney and I think it was last year. Was it last year? Last year. In June, with Koala Clancy out in Lara, we planted, as a group, 3,000 trees in 1 month. So I think we've got a lot of work to do as a council. We need to work with community groups like Koala Clancy, schools, residents have tree planting days as we do, because we really need to engage the community to plant more trees across the municipality, because 1 million trees were falling far short, with only 7,000 in the last 12 months from October to December. So we've got a lot of work to do, but we need to engage with our community more, and I'll be happy to put my hand up, as I'm sure Councillor Maloney is, to go out on days in the middle of winter and plant trees when the rain is blowing sideways. So I'm putting my hand up to join the people. Plant more trees. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. With that, I'll put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Item number 4 is the proposed sale of 59 Bacchus Marsh Road, Corio.
I'd like to move an alternative motion, Mr Mayor.
Yep. Mayor, you have an alternative motion. Do you have a seconder?
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, the alternative motion that I wish to move is that Council withdraws the proposed sale of 59 Bacchus Marsh Road and requests the Chief Executive Officer to assess alternative options for it, which could include suitability for social housing, expression of interest as an emergency accommodation site, opportunities identified in the Corio Norlane Structure Plan, and any other community needs that may be identified during this process. Look, the reality is that this site has probably a financial value of about $360,000. And the medium house price in Corio is about $460,000. So the $360,000 is actually what you're going to get for a block of land. So there's probably greater value for us to actually look at some of our other policies and strategies that we have within the city of Greater Geelong to see if there's better value that the community can actually receive from this particular site. The reality is the most significant challenge being faced by the Geelong community and Australia and in many other parts of the world is the housing crisis. And the reality is that crisis, that we have rental stress, we have affordability stress where people can't enter into the housing market, we have mortgage stress where people are actually under significant financial pressure to actually maintain their mortgages. And we also have a social housing stock deficiency in Geelong. And of course, we also now have an emergency accommodation problem in Geelong as well too. An unintended consequence of the Spirit of Tasmania was that all of our low-cost camping and motel accommodation, which traditionally was used for emergency accommodation, is now being booked regularly by the Spirit of Tasmania. So if you actually look at our social housing plan from 2020 to 2041, which was adopted by the Council in 2020, there's 2 significant points that are made in that strategy that actually should give the CEO and the administration confidence to look at and assess if this site could be used for social housing. And they are that we had 2 investment strategies associated with our adopted policy. One of those was to identify 1 or 2 suitable sites within the city of Greater Geelong to actually create an inclusive social housing showcase which employed the best practices in both social, economic and environmental sustainability. And we would document and promote that development within the city and externally to the state as well too, and the Commonwealth Government as a showcase of how you could actually do social housing in the community. And a second point that was made in that social housing strategy that we adopted as well too, we actually said that the council would contribute the city's own land, which is surplus to its requirements. So we actually said publicly that if we have land that is surplus to our requirements, we will consider it for social housing. Now, I don't believe this particular site has actually been through that assessment, and that's why I think it deserves to be withdrawn and actually properly assessed. Can it actually be looked at for that usage as well too? To the credit of Councillor Hathaway, she's discussed some other proposals as well too, and I'll allow Councillor Hathaway to actually speak on those as well too. But what is important is I actually think this site has greater value than just generating some financial return for the City of Greater Geelong, and that is our responsibility of councillors to look at our policies and our strategies and actually how do we maximise our return and benefit for the community. The sadness of our housing strategy that we adopted as the council is that practically none of it has actually been implemented. And here's a tangible example that we can show to the community that we understand what we actually adopted back in 2020, and we are going to try and do something to meet the implementation plan and the actions that were outlined in that particular document. So I certainly would encourage councillors to recognise that this site in particular has far greater value than just the financial return that can be made if it was sold, and it is worthy of being assessed under the proposals that have been put forward under the alternative recommendation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Hathaway.
Mr Mayor. So the city's social housing plan 2020 to 2041 is built around 5 key goals, one of which is increasing the supply of social housing through the provision of cities' owned land for social housing development. The background and the officer's recommendation states that land would suit a single private dwelling and is not appropriate due to the size of the land and location. However, there's no report attached in relation to either of these statements. If council were to provide the land for social housing to build 1 or 2 units, then that is 1 or 2 more than we have accomplished to date, which is 0. Further, I'm repeatedly hearing from organisations and community groups in the northern suburbs about the lack of community infrastructure generally, and in particularly community spaces that are affordable and accessible to groups. Council holds these assets in trust for the community, and once they're sold, we don't get them back. So I would commend this alternative motion to my fellow councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. Other councillors comment? Councillor Wilkinson.
Referencing back to the report that we've just passed, it's a 4-year priority of continuing to implement this social housing plan 2020-2041, which was so lauded by the community as really thinking ahead. There's currently 7,600 people waiting on the public wait list. We need to build 760 houses every year for 10 years to meet that demand. I think we need to look at every available option we have within our community, and we need to adhere to a policy that we've written, and we hold strongly. Angela Carr's comments earlier in question time really highlighted these issues, and if this piece of land has fallen outside of the audit that we've done in terms of our own land, then we really need to take this on board, and I support this motion.
Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Contell.
Just very quickly, I applaud both councillors Aitken and Hathaway for putting forward this alternate to consider. Having just spent around 5 weeks in the States just prior to Christmas, the most confronting aspect of the US, as notwithstanding what a great country it is the homelessness that you are confronted with every minute of the day that you are there. Whether it be the most elite streets of the country to those that are more disadvantaged. And what was really telling was when I returned back to Geelong and went for a walk and a run the day after was just, I guess, how pleasant an environment we live in, notwithstanding that we've got work to do. I guess my point is that we would never want to see our country and our city here in Geelong replicate or reflect anything even close to what you see on the streets in the US. And I know that there's lots of inputs and influences into that, whether it be poverty, drug use and other, but housing certainly forms a part of that. And so if we can start with initiatives such as this, such as reviewing the land that is surplus to our needs and considering that for the requirements of social housing, then I think we're at least taking steps to ensure that we prevent that from ever happening here in our backyard.
Absolutely. Well noted, Councillor Contell. Councillor Nelson.
Mayor, on Sunday I went out to Bacchus Marsh Road to have a look at the site to see if what we were doing as a council was correct in selling off surplus land. And I'd have to agree with Councillor Hathaway and Councillor Aitken. It's certainly a great spot to build the social housing, certainly to look at it. It's close to Corio Village, it's close to our new Northern Aquatic Centre, it's close to the library, it's on public transport routes. So I think for me, rather than selling land and getting $350,000, $400,000, I think that's just a waste. I think we're better off reinvesting in our community, and that's why I fully support the alternate recommendation to look at ways we can have emergency or social housing in that area. All heard, and it's a no-brainer for me. We really need it. So, spot. So why not do it?
Councillor Nelson. No other councillors to comment. I'll go back to Deputy Mayor Aitken to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you for the councillors for their comments as well too. Look, the reality is we're actually an affluent nation and we're an affluent community in Geelong. We do have to care for others that actually need support and are vulnerable. And in fact, housing is the most important thing you can do to actually give someone a leg up and assist them to actually participate and be an active member of our community. The only other comment I make as well too, I think there's some confusion in the organisation. We actually did an audit which identified 30 sites potentially that could be used for social housing. Now, it didn't rule out those 30 sites. What that document actually did was it ranked the 3 highest ones in a priority order. So in fact, there were 27 other sites that the council could consider in the future for social housing as well too. And I think it has been lost, that understanding. What the team tried to do was find the 3 highest priority sites out of that 30 that we audited. This particular site was not one of those sites, and the reason being is because when we developed that audit of those sites, this actually was the Meals on Wheels headquarters, so it still had a service and activity and need for the community. But since then, it hasn't, and it never was part of our assessment processes. But now we've actually got an opportunity to revisit our housing plan and actually go back and say, well, here's 2 sites. Let's build something on it potentially that is showcased, and let's start. I mean, what I remember from the debate back in 2020 was there was a lot of discussion about should council get involved in social housing or should council get involved in housing provision in the local government. Why we did was because we recognised that we did have a responsibility. It wasn't just state and federal government's responsibility on this particular issue. We actually said council should be directly engaged and involved, and that's exactly what we're attempting to do here. All right, thank you very much. Yep.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aitken. With that, put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Number 5, Asbury Street West, Ocean Grove, Declaration of Charge, Special Rate and Charge Scheme, SRC 362. Moved Councillor Wilkinson, seconded Councillor Mason. Councillor Wilkinson.
Mayor. This report recommends council resolves to declare a special charge scheme to fund the road construction and sealing of Asbury Street West in Ocean Grove. Just in context, special charges are a key source of revenue for Council's road and footpath construction programs to ensure ongoing delivery of a range of important transport services to the local community. Council resolved its intention to declare a special charge scheme at its meeting of 24th of October 2023, and a public notice and letters containing all relevant scheme information were sent to all benefiting property owners. So there are 7 residential properties abutting the proposed scheme that will receive a special benefit, and there are no city-owned properties in this scheme. Residents returned 6 surveys, and all 6 expressed their support for the road construction and sealing to proceed. No formal submissions were received in relation to the proposed charge. So the report notes that should Council declare the scheme, there is an opportunity for submissions to be sent to the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal, VCAT, for further consideration and determination. In terms of costs, the report outlines the total scheme. Cost is estimated at $119,114. Property owners would be required to contribute $89,335.5, so 75%, based on the apportionment of cost and social and special benefit to adjacent properties.
Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan, and Councillor Wilkinson has done a very adequate job on describing this motion. I'd just like to add one thing, and that usual payment criteria will always be applied, and it's recognised that significant hardships can be experienced by members of our community. The City will consider an application for financial hardship relief confidentially and objectively based on the information provided by the person in the application. Thank you.
Councillor Mason. Any other councillors to comment? If not, Councillor Wilkinson to close.
Yep. It's just important to note that the provision of properly sealed and drained roadways is aligned to the council plan. It provides important amenity, connectivity and safety for motorists and pedestrians. And so, yeah, I would encourage the declaration of the special charge scheme.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. With that, I'll put to the vote. All those in favour of this one? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Number 6, Park Street, Port Arlington, intention to declare report, special rate and charge scheme, SRC 362. Moved, Councillor Mason. Seconded, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In a sense, this is similar in approach to the previous resolution in Ocean Grove, where there was a declaration of intent on the 24th of October, and now we're considering that at this point following further submissions. In this case, the Port Arlington project was in response to complaints from residents requesting that the road be sealed. Sealing the road would improve amenity, road safety and limit the impacts from dust, mud, stone and scatter to adjacent properties. So the city facilitated a large-scale early engagement program throughout Port Arlington, where we surveyed all properties abutting an unsealed road to determine the community's appetite for sealing these roads through an SRC program. For various reasons, interest in sealing the majority of the unsealed roads under an SRC scheme were not realised, and Park Street was the only street which gained majority support through both early engagement and the more recent SRC consultation phase. So, as part of the SRC community engagement phase, which took place in November 23, accurate cost apportionment was provided to the Park Street property owners. The majority support garnered through this exercise was done so with each property owner understanding their contribution costs. And I note that tonight there's been some questions about that and some questions about the accuracy or otherwise. So this is an intention to declare report. It's not actually a declaration. So this is the first phase, and in the meantime now, if we pass this tonight, there will then be an opportunity for residents to make a submission to the submission review panel, which will give further consideration to any suggestions made through their submissions. So, in summary, the city will fund $109,388.50, which is 25%, and property owners are proposed to fund $328,165.50, 75% of the project. This has all been done in accordance with criteria that have been laid down, and if there are any questions about that, then I think that there's the opportunity for a submissions review panel, and ultimately, if they're still following the decision then, if there are any objections, it can still go to VCAT. So once again, specials charges are a key source of revenue for council's civil infrastructure construction programs, which enable the timely delivery of community requested infrastructure that provides a higher level of service that is currently available and deliverable within existing budgets. And on this particular project, Park Street, there was a majority of the residents in that street that required this SRC. I'll leave it to further comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Wilkinson.
It is important to note that there are 11 properties abutting the proposed scheme, and 6 properties support the upgrade under a special charge scheme, and 5 are not in support, which is we're talking about majority, but it is only a slight majority. And Councillor Mason has highlighted the fact that there are stages to go here. Because I note that tonight we heard that there are errors in the table that was used, and in fact one property was missing and one was set back longer than stated. So there is some work to be done in this area, but noting that there is a stage by which this discussion, and can I just clarify if that's okay with James Sturton about the next phase in this process?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I would like to clarify the difference between the 10 properties listed in the table and the 11 listed in the report is that property 29 to 31 Park Street is actually counted as 2 properties, so which is the reason for the discrepancy in that table. So yes, this is the next phase of this is as Councillor Mason identified, is the progression of this intention to declare. So this isn't the final decision. So there's still a committee to be heard should people want to discuss this any further. Officers are also available to discuss any further questions that they may have.
With the Mayor. Thank you, James.
Councillor Wilkinson. Any other councillors comment on this one?
A question for clarification.
Please.
Will this then come back to council chamber for adoption or refusal once that consultation period's finished?
I'll say a few words then before back to Councillor Mason to close. I do understand the need for this road, for the SRC to upgrade this road. It's clear from the residents on Park Street and the surrounds that they wish to have this upgraded. I understand that. And do respect the report that the officers have put together here with all the information. We received a 6 out of 11 majority, which allows officers to instigate this work, take it to the next level. That is a majority, that's what we must respect. However, I do have a history of concerns with SRCs. And this is nothing new for people I've served with for a long time. I understand they help us as a community, help the pot go further and upgrade more facilities and roads to increase the standard of living. But it is something that, this is an extreme cost that may be borne by the ratepayers if this is fully declared at the end. It's fantastic that this is an intent and that there will be further consultation with community members, especially on Park Street and the landholders. I'll never be against extra consultation. However, some of these costs that we're intending to declare here, around 30,000, double that, 60,000, these are significant numbers when we are very well recognised in a cost of living crisis around the community. And for me, weighing out numbers as large as that on a 6 out of 11 majority just doesn't sit well, unfortunately. So I will be voting against this one, but that said, that's not against the officers' work. They've done a fantastic work. They have done exactly what they're supposed to do and followed the policies. This is just a matter that doesn't sit well with me, but I understand the need to go out and re-engage with the members of Park Street should this pass tonight. Any other councillors to comment? I'll go back to Councillor Maloney.
Just a question for clarification. You mentioned that some of these people have suggested that they would like this work to be done. Do these individuals enter into a contract at any stage with council in order for these works to be conducted, or for the rates and charges to be deducted from the, or summoned, I suppose, whatever it might be?
I'll go to Officer Sturton.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this becomes a special charge. So on top of the with the rates notice, is something that each resident is liable to pay. That, as Councillor Mason highlighted with the previous report, there's hardship available should people fall into that category, and we work with people to enable that payment to be made.
What makes them liable to pay if there's no contract?
This is a statutory fee that is attached to the property that needs to be paid as per a waste charge, as per rates notice, etc.
Okay, so a statutory charge attached to the property from its sale, if it is under a fee simple title or a Torrens title, or where's the attachment there?
So it's attached to the rates notice as well. So if the if the property was to be sold, I'd have to take that on notice whether whether the charge carries with the property itself. My understanding is that it does. So yeah, so it is a law-abiding payment that's attached to the property.
I think it might not be a law, it might be related to an act, but I think we might need to get some clarification on that, because I've had some constituents contact me about the legality of that, and I'm not really sure how to answer them, so I'll probably
we can get further legal advice.
I need some advice on that. Yeah, okay, thank you.
We can seek that. Thank you. With that, I'll throw back to Councillor Mason to close.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. I'd just like to say that we've had recurrent discussions and debates, both in council-only time and at chamber meetings, about special rates and charges. And it is a wicked problem sometimes. It does cost a lot of money. But one thing is that we've all resolved in the past, is that it costs the community a greater amount of the no special rates and charges, and therefore the rate and the momentum of development and facilities supplied to the community at large would be reduced if we did not have these special rates and charges. We have repeatedly resolved support for special rates and charges as a majority. Having said that, we've mentioned the word errors in the report tonight. I'd like to add the word perceived errors. There may or may not be errors. They are perceived to be, and it is subject to the clinical and careful attention of a review panel should there be any submissions. So once again, there's been an appetite for work to be done on Park Street, and I advocate in favour of that.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Motion passes. Thank you. Point. All right, now moving on to item 7 tonight, tender T240019, proactive tree maintenance, moved by Councillor Maloney, seconded by Councillor Murray. Councillor Maloney.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. This report is procedural related to Ron's favourite topic, trees. The tree maintenance, which is a huge contract worth the sum of $1.8 odd million for a 5-year program for all of our trees to be maintained. The report also, in its granular detail, authorises the CEO to execute contracts on behalf of us and cover maintenance, which facilitates our municipality looking lovely.
Thank you. Councillor Murray.
I've got nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Any councillors wish to speak on this item? Mr Nelson, let's talk about the trees.
Oh, it is getting late too. I better hurry before 10 o'clock.
You have 3
I'm
minutes.
noting, Mr Mayor, that this report, this tender does not include the planting of new trees. It's just to maintain the existing trees. So it's the truck that you see going around watering the trees. But they do a great job keeping our municipality as green as we possibly can. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. No other councillors to comment. I'll go back to Councillor Maloney.
Nothing further.
I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Is carried. Thank you. Just to get ahead of the curve here, as per our governance rules, we cannot continue after 10 p.m. unless a majority of members present vote in favour of continuing. Do I have a move and a seconder for a motion that the meeting can continue to proceed after 10 p.m? Moved Councillor Wilkinson, seconded Councillor Mason. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The meeting shall continue. That has been carried. Item number 8 is the one up next. Councillor Contel, you have declared a conflict. All right. Now that Councillor Contel has removed himself from the chamber, this item is moved by Councillor Harwood, seconded by Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The hard waste collection came in recent times where most of the councillors here were on council when we introduced it. I think it became the 127th service the council actually provides for the community. So, but it was one after considerable debate about whether it would be accepted and by the community, and it has been. In fact, it's been quite a success insofar as having those who could not have afforded in recent times to clean out the shed or the yard or whatever it might be. If you're shifting house and you had an array of basically hard waste rubbish just left at different properties or at inappropriate places in and around the community. So. The actual contract is being awarded to Cleanaway, a well-known company in and around Victoria and Australia, and they'll be continuing the collection of hard waste in our community. And one of the major reasons we brought in hard waste was in relation to dumping of rubbish in and around sensitive areas, but creeks or rivers or different properties. But unfortunately, dumping still remains a problem. But I would suspect that this is at least one way that council can try and help mitigate that particular issue within the community, which is, there's nothing worse than driving around your neighbourhood or you're on the train to Melbourne and you see a site that's been used as a dump when there are actually a number of mechanisms out there available to the community for that not to occur, whether it's, there's free mattress services, there's, you can take your paint, your oils and chemicals, etc., to the depots in North Geelong and I think Drysdale. There are a number of other private avenues out there to collect waste, but our hard waste collection is very popular. Twice a year you can use it, so there's really no excuse for the dumping of waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harwood. Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think the only thing I would say is probably a personal observation about hard waste collections is that possibly we could do a little bit more to actually promote it, certainly in the outer areas of Geelong where I live. I talk to residents all the time in my area, and I'm always amazed at how few of them actually know about hard waste. And I sometimes drive around the ward and see rubbish piled up in people's front nature strips, and as I say, these people are just not aware that hard waste actually even exists as a thing. So I probably am going to point that in the Executive Director for City Infrastructure, James's direction for consideration. That's probably all I've got to say about this, other than this report actually recommends that Council authorises the CEO to execute the contract and to give effect to the terms of the contract on behalf of Council.
Councillor Cadwell. Any other councillors comment? Councillor Maloney, then Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. I have an inquiry about the review of these contracts. I wasn't sure. I thought that there was one that was going to be done sometime last year, but I'm not sure whether or not that's been undertaken. Has that review been done?
Or which contracts?
On the refuse, all the waste contracts, basically.
I'm familiar, but we can take that on notice and have a look at when they're supposed to be done.
Okay, just because I guess there was, before my time, I think there was an extension of contracts beyond in the middle of the pandemic stuff. So I thought that there might have been, this might have been going through as a result of that review.
Yeah, was that a council resolution, or was that with our services such as
Internal
Cleanaway and whatnot, the
services,
processing
yeah,
ones,
yeah,
the processing plants? Yeah, okay, well, we can look into that. Thank you. Comment? If not, back to Councillor Harwood. Oh, sorry, Councillor Murray, of course, apologies.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm supportive of this, but it just raised my eyebrows that it's for 36 months with two 12-month options. So I read that as, another 5 years for this contract. There's no amount, not that I could find, for it. It's a very generous service that we offer. As Councillor Harwood has said, 2 collections per year per residential dwelling, free of charge to Geelong residents. I mean, it'll obviously perhaps go through tonight, but I just wonder, we've been looking at different services and different projects as part of the budget process in the last 2 or 3 weeks, whether something like this, could be looked at, restricted. I know it's a good service, but gee whiz, 36 months with 2 12-month options, no amount, and 2 collections per year per residential dwelling free of charge. Pretty generous. I mean, in any event.
Thank you. American.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Just clarification, it's actually not a free service, it's actually paid for under the waste charge. So what happens is that every resident actually is paying for this under our waste charge that we collect. So as much as people think it's free, they actually are paying for it with through their rates. What it is majority of people don't actually use it, but a lot of people do use it, and it is a well-loved service that was introduced back in 2018 by the City of Greater Geelong.
Lovely, thank you. No further Councillor Nelson.
Councillor Aitken just sparked a memory from prior to when we had the hard waste, when we introduced that in 2018, was it 2018? Councillor Howard? We used to do vouchers, and the problem with vouchers is not everyone has a trailer, or everyone has access to a trailer. So I think the hard waste is probably a better alternative to giving vouchers. I know that Surf Coast do vouchers, but not everyone has a trailer or access to a trailer, or even a tow ball for that matter. So I think it's a good thing to do hard waste, but as Councillor Cadwell rightly said, we need to promote it more. And I guess we could probably do it on our own websites and to promote it throughout the city, to make sure that everyone knows we get 2 free ones a year. Thanks,
Indeed.
Mr Mayor.
Indeed, we've a generous proportion of our waste budget is towards education and promotion. And also, this was big news back in 2018 when we originally put it in. You've got to keep it top of people's minds. So I go to Councillor Mason.
I'd just like to add one thing, Mr Mayor, and that is part of our discussion in those days was all the dumped rubbish found around and the cost of retrieving all of that as well. Just mention that.
Right, a problem that's grown worse and we have a dedicated crew for. You have further to add, Councillor Maloney?
I have another question. Just with respect to a lot of these tenders or the contracts, we get a dollar figure as to what it's worth. And I guess I'm just curious to know why that's not here as far as the initial term of 36 months. Is that a negotiated figure that we've received? It doesn't seem to be here, and it doesn't seem to be in the report, which probably might be useful for us.
We'll just request clarification. What the extension costs are.
The initial term of 36 months of the contract. The dollar value of the 36-month contract.
Yeah, I think we would exercise an option at the end of the 36 months as to whether we did or didn't pursue the 12-month contract, which would be subject to the tender process now. I'm probably looking to Mr Sturton to give us some of those figures potentially. Just conscious we are in open council meeting though.
Okay.
No, we're going to tender for this, so we haven't got the figures in front of us, but that's what we're looking to gain from the market.
Oh, so that says yet to get an estimate on the cost. Okay, thank you so much for that. Thanks for the clarification.
So that, Councillor Harwood to close.
I guess one of the things, the unintended consequences of this particular community service is that, we are already sort of high consumers, we always want the latest and greatest gadget or the new TV or whatever it might be, and so we put the old one out on the nature strip and think, well, that's just gone. But we don't actually think to where it goes, so we actually have an increase in landfill, basically, over time with this particular program. So it's a yin and yang thing. Like, there was a lot of public pressure to put on, we want hard waste, we want to get rid of our rubbish, which is fine, but it doesn't actually encourage people to think about or think a bit more about where their rubbish actually really does go and does end up. And unfortunately, a lot of the hard waste does finish up in landfills. So it's just an unintended consequence, but it's still it's a service the community want, but they also have to understand that while there's a monetary cost, there's also an environmental cost on occasions. Thank you.
I would, for that, put to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? The item is carried. Can I please ask someone to get Councillor Contel to return to the chamber? Moving into section 4, record of informal meetings of councillors. Can I please have a mover and a seconder? Move Councillor Hathaway, second Councillor Wilkinson.
I have a minor amendment, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to note that my name's missing on the 12th of March. I did attend that meeting. I don't know what the most expedient way to include this.
Yep, I believe you've notified governance, and governance have notified me that will be included in what's moved right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. All councillors in favour? Thank you. Councillors against? Carried. Section 5, planning delegations. Can we have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Harwood, seconded Councillor Wilkinson. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Did you vote against then, Councillor Cadwell? It's carried. Section 6 is confidential. We have a couple of items here to move into confidential. First one being advocacy framework. I'm happy to move that move into confidential. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Aiken. All those in favour? Thank you. Next one being regional assessment services tender. Moved into confidential by Councillor Hathaway. Seconded Councillor Maloney. All those in favour? Thank you. We are now to consider the remaining agenda items in confidential section of our meetings. Can we have a mover and seconder to move into confidential? Move to Councillor Contell, second to Councillor Harwood. All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? That is carried. I'd like to thank both our virtual gallery who's still with us and all the people who have attended in person today, all members for their participation tonight. This is what local government's about, what grassroots democracy is about. Good evening, everyone.